President Joe. On Wednesday night, Trump endorsed U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis's 2026 re-election bid. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that Lummis expressed gratitude for Trump's endorsement.
Trump commended her work on cryptocurrency issues and said that she is definitely an American first type senator that would be great to reelect in Wyoming. Lummis was particularly happy, obviously, to get Trump's endorsement. She said that Powder River let her buck. Thank you, President Trump. I will never stop fighting for Wyoming. Its people are proud patriots, freedom maximalists, and lovers of liberty. It is truly the last best place on earth.
Despite a few rankles with the Wyoming Republican Party, Lummis has enjoyed a relatively high level of popularity during her time in office. Once it became clear that President Donald Trump was likely to get the Republican nomination in his bid for re-election, Lummis quickly aligned with him and since that time has consistently supported his efforts. Well, it's cold comfort for the 28 coal mine workers laid off last week by Kemmerer Operations LLC, but Wyoming coal industry watchers see evidence of an uptick in coal production and sales to electric utilities. The job losses equal around 13% of the mine's workforce and the reduction, according to Cowboy State Daily's David Madison, but there are signs that coal production could increase in Wyoming and elsewhere.
We had 28 people laid off in Kemmerer, which they're hoping to have those employees absorbed in some of the other natural resource extraction industries around that area, and there certainly is a lot going on. At the same time, folks are losing their job. Things are looking up as far as future coal orders go. So I spoke to someone at the Wyoming Mining Association, and they said, hey, contracts are coming in right now. Power plants are purchasing Wyoming coal.
The Kemmerer Operations mine produced 2.4 million tons of coal in 2024 with a staff of 215 workers. Wyoming will lose around $40 million in federal COVID-era grants that it's used to track infectious diseases, provide immunizations, and fight substance abuse addiction as part of the cuts made by President Donald Trump's administration on Wednesday. The Wyoming Department of Health confirmed to Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson that the state expects to lose more than $39 million in grant funding for its public health division and nearly $1 million for its behavioral health division.
I spoke to Representative Rachel Rodriguez-Williams, who is the chairman of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus and also the chair of the House Health, Labor, and Social Services Committee. She supports the cuts, saying that she applauds President Trump's mission to properly allocate taxpayer dollars and a willingness to make tough decisions. I spoke to health advocacy group Better Wyoming, who slammed the news in a statement provided to Cowboy State Daily.
Wednesday's cuts are part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services move to cancel around $12 billion in federal grants to states that were allocated this money during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Do you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
Well, Bighorn Basin Towing in Cody is planning one of its most challenging recoveries. A battered pickup is precariously perched on a cliff face near Wapiti, and they're hoping to recover it intact. The irony is the truck belongs to one of the business's co-workers. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi spoke to Eric Lopez, who said he never thought one of his most challenging recoveries would be for his own vehicle.
He drives his truck, Old Blue, back home, parks it, and goes inside to get some rest. That night, the winds pick up in Cody, as they often do, and they were strong enough to roll the truck down the cliff, off the cliff, and get it wedged into a crevice and amongst some giant tooth-shaped rocks. And the only explanation that Eric Lopez, the co-owner, has is that he must have forgotten to put on the parking brake when he parked it, and the winds were strong enough to push this Ford F-250 up and over a cliff.
Although the truck crumpled in the fall, the Bighorn Basin Towing Crew believes Old Blue could be salvageable. They won't know until it goes. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
Big apologies. Hi, gang. This is John Baggett, a.k.a. your buddy Bags. I'm subbing for my friend Jake Nichols this morning, Ed Shireen. Jake on vacation, and hopefully you can hear me and see me. Again, I apologize, technical issues. This guy is subbing, and I even joked on my Facebook post yesterday as I was announcing I was going to be on the show that there should be chaos whenever there's a substitute teacher in. And that's what it was. Yeah, it was technical. It's a technology where we're hooked up via Wi-Fi with a program right here in front of me and a mixer board over here. For some reason, my computer wasn't talking to the mixer board, so I couldn't hear anything. You could hear that I was replaying the news over and over. That's because I didn't want there to be dead air. That's not what I wanted. So, but again, at some point, I had to get bug and drag Jake out of bed, and he figured it out. Got in here remotely and did it. Man, unbelievable. Jake's texting me now. He says, I sound great. Yeah. Your eyes are rolling in the back of your head. Now get out there. You go see the Cabana Boy and get yourself a pina colada and plenty of sunscreen, would you? But I want to thank Jake for helping me out here with this. Again, my apologies. A little bit of a snafu here. I had all kinds of stuff planned that last hour. Where are we now? It is, we're at 6:43. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, there was a great article by our own Tom Landau. He's one of our columnists, and he was talking about, I call it doom scrolling. Some people call it rage baiting. And that's what the article was about in Cowboy State Daily. If you don't subscribe, you should do that. Hey, I'm going to get a little sip of coffee here. A little dry cotton mouth there with the anxiety over the technical issues. If there's one thing for sure, that's not my forte. But anyway, so this great article, Tom, check it out, Cowboy State Daily. It's there. You have to go back a couple of days to see it. But the gist of it was that there was a pattern. Folks these days, with the politics and as heated as they are, they, just nonstop back and forth, going on and on, looking from one article to another, on purpose, working themselves into a rage over other folks' opinions on politics, left, right, middle, whatever. But folks are getting their jollies out of getting all upset. Now, I have a buddy, Ryan. He's a really funny guy, Ryan Legler. He actually does stand-up comedy here in the Sheridan area. I think he does it all over the state. And him and I got to talking about it. I'm going to try to bring him up if he is there and standing by. Let's see if he is, because this would be a good conversation with Ryan. If you're listening, Ryan, go ahead and plug back. He was probably standing by moments ago and finally gave up on me, but who could blame him, right? Well, anyway, so just the point being that not only do some people really enjoy getting worked up about politics and their position and so forth and want to defend it, that they'll get all upset about it. Now, the thing that my issue, that's not really what happens to me. The doom scrolling is in the new lexicon, that's going to be one that a lot of us can relate to. Doom scrolling. What is doom scrolling? Doom scrolling is getting online, getting your phone out. Here's mine, as you guys saw me. That's how I was communicating with Jake, by the way. And you're just going from Twitter X to Instagram to Facebook to LinkedIn, back and just going bananas over it nonstop. And let's see if I got Ryan back on there. Yeah. Okay. My earlier interview with Tom. I owe him such a big apology. The author of that article was going to be on with me, and it's like not to a little bit of sarcasm there. It was nice not to chat with me, but I do apologize, Tom. Again, great article. Go check it out, Cowboy State Daily, and I think you'll see what I mean. You'll appreciate his perspective on it. But my perspective on it is I am guilty of that, the doom scrolling that occurs when I get on there. And I don't know why it's so hard. You start looking at videos and comments and postings, and next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. That's doom scrolling. And do you do it? Well, believe it or not, you can communicate with me here in the studio, my home studio. I'm in Sheridan, Wyoming. My name is John Baggett. I'm the usual now Saturday morning show host, 6A to 7A, or excuse me, 6A to 10A on Saturdays here on Cowboy State Daily Radio. And you can get to me in the studio at 307-278-9598. That's by call and by text. So shoot me a text here, and I'll see if I can get some of the, let's just say, sarcastic comments about me fouling up the show launch this morning. But yeah, that, and there is a designated email address to me, wyomingbags307 at gmail.com. So Wyoming bags with 2 G's and an S, 307 at gmail.com. Now, for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm an old radio dinosaur, and I go way back, even to the mid-'80s, where I actually worked with our chief editor, Jimmy Orr, in radio in Cheyenne. But all told, I've got about 42 years in radio, if you do the math. Hiatus of about, I'd say a year and a half now. I was doing a rock and roll show middays at 98.3 The Peak up until about a year and a half ago, and then the ownership of that radio station had some significant legal issues, and that was into that. Suddenly, I was free. That only lasted a few months, and I went back to work. Decided I was going to, hiatus from radio, and have ended up as a real estate agent here in the Bighorn Mountain country of Wyoming, Sheridan, Buffalo, Ranchester, Dayton, Claremont, Arvada, Bighorn Mountain country, northern Wyoming, and it's been great. I've got a great team. Bruce, Garber, Rosemary have, been super patient with me, and they gave me a job. They made me get licensed, first of all, and now I have all this freedom where I'm running around during the day where I would normally be stuck in a studio like I am now. So that's been a blessing, is going out and looking at big ranches, beautiful, incredible chalets, just gorgeous property. But it is freedom. I'm running around most days looking at properties, showing properties, and that's what I'm doing these days. If I could ever help you, I'm available. Certainly get a hold of me. But again, the radio background is primarily broadcast radio is my background, and I will be doing a show every Saturday, 6A to 10A, and that show should be a little bit different. I decided I wanted to, lighten it up on Saturday a little bit. A lot of the news, as you know, during the week is pretty serious stuff. Like, here's some of the headlines. Trump endorses Loomis for re-election to the Senate. We've got Trump cuts $40 million in Wyoming COVID. I'm looking at the Cowboy State Daily newspaper here. If you don't get it, subscribe now. And then one of the stories that I'm kind of enamored with and focused on is a Cody towing company is facing a difficult recovery job. A Ford F-250 was left without the parking brake on, and sure enough, it rolls off a cliff. Yep. The truck belongs to Eric Lopez, one of the business's co-owners. He says, I never thought one of my challenging recoveries would be for my own vehicle. I guess that's a good way to sum it up. So there's a great article about that. One of my associates here at Cowboy State Daily wrote it. His name is Andrew Rossi. And if you go on to that, our website, cowboystatedaily.com, you will see an incredibly talented bunch of writers, columnists that, I started subscribing about not a year ago, but about 4 or 5 months ago. And just the variety and the perspectives, I'm very impressed with the team that we have here. But anyway, that story just caught me and just made me think of the disaster I had this morning with signing on here on a Friday at Cowboy State Daily Radio. Lopez said he was under the weather when he returned to his Wapiti home last weekend. He parked Old Blue, a 97 Ford F-250, outside his house and went inside to get some much-needed rest. He says, when I woke up at 4 a.m., we had crazy winds over 70 miles per hour and looked outside my window and my truck was gone. Lopez ruled out a theft, as it would have been impractical for anyone to want a 28-year-old truck that and to venture out at night to get it. So he waited until the following day to verify his theory. The only thing I could think of was that it rolled down the cliff. And once we had daylight, I saw it on the side of the cliff. The verdict, Lopez parked the truck, but must have forgotten to put it in gear. And when the winds picked up, good old Wyoming winds, that was enough to roll the truck over the cliff. I couldn't believe it, he said, but that's the story. And there's a great picture of it, like just wedged into a mini canyon there, and what's left of it. It looks like a crumpled tin can. Old Blue, he said, was one of the most reliable trucks at Bighorn Basin Towing. Lopez and his crew are hopeful the truck wasn't totaled in the fall. Wait, I'm looking at the picture, Mr. Lopez, and I'm no expert, but that's totaled. We've never done anything like this, he said. This is the kind of recovery you see on YouTube with wreckers and helicopters. But we're a towing recovery company and an auto repair business, and that's what we do. So that's probably going to be their project for now. Now, speaking of weather, let me get back here. I do have Don Day scheduled to come on because we do have weather working its way into cowboy country here. Let me hop on here. Let's see. Don Day's Wyoming forecast. Don and I were talking yesterday, and we think we know each other from way back in the 80s, 1980s. Believe it or not, yesterday here in Sheridan, it reached 78 degrees. And now we've got snow in the forecast. Welcome to the spring tease in good old Wyoming. So here's what Don Day's forecast says. We have a mix of mostly sunny to mostly cloudy skies in Wyoming today, with a chance for afternoon rain here in some areas. Highs from the low 40s to the low 70s. Still, I'm going to assume there's going to be some wind involved, because it usually is. That's in the, let's see what part of the state. That's the overall. See, but we can narrow it down here. Casper area, central Wyoming. Slight chance of rain after 5 o'clock. Increasing clouds and breezy today with a high near 65 and wind gusts as high as 21 miles per hour. Cloudy overnight with a chance of rain mainly after 10 and a low near 40. Lander, a slight chance of rain after 5, otherwise partly sunny today. High near 61 and then becoming partly cloudy overnight. Then a chance of rain around 10 o'clock and a low near 32. Let's head down to the southwest part of Wyoming. Here's Evanston or Rock Springs. Chance of rain mainly after 5 o'clock. Otherwise, partly sunny today, a high near 56. Wind gusts as high as 20 miles per hour, gradually becoming partly cloudy overnight with a chance of rain before 10 o'clock. And western Wyoming, let's check out Afton. I like Afton, Star Valley area. Slight chance of rain after 3 o'clock. Increasing clouds today with a high near 44 and mostly cloudy overnight with a slight chance of rain and snow before 10 o'clock and a low near 26. Northwest Wyoming and Du Bois. Let's do Du Bois. Slight chance of rain and snow after 5 o'clock, otherwise partly sunny. Breezy today with a high near 48. That's all. And wind gusts as high as 21 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy overnight with a chance of rain and snow after 11 o'clock tonight and a low near 29. Okay, so the forecast, Bighorn Basin area, which that's more or less over there on the other side of the Bighorns from us here in Sheridan. Cody's going to be partly sunny and breezy today with a high near 61. And wind gusts as high as 25 miles per hour, mostly cloudy overnight with a chance of rain before 10 and a low near 34. Wind gusts 25 miles an hour. Already said that. And let's do Sheridan. That's where I am. And a chance of rain after 3 o'clock this afternoon. Gradually becoming sunny today with a high near 62 and wind not too bad. We like that here in Sheridan, 9 miles to 16 miles per hour. Rain likely overnight with a low near 34 in the northeast. Over in Gillette, mostly sunny today with a high near 65. Wind gusts as high as 20 miles per hour. Rain likely after midnight with an overnight low near 38. And wind gusts as high as 20 miles per hour. Right now here in Sheridan, quick look our weather. We are at 54 degrees, and it says that we have some light rain out there. Now, I haven't been outside. I walked outside with my yellow lab Waylon to see what it was like out there so I could be accurate. And it looks like it's a little misty out there, but it looks like now I'm on the radar that we are getting some snow on top of the Bighorns. So anyway, that's what it looks like here in the Cowboy State weather-wise. Now we're going to get back to the news, and then hopefully I'm going to be back on schedule in the next hour. I will have Don Day on. We will talk about the weather. And then I've got a gentleman. His name is TJ. He was a victim of vandalism with his Tesla. He's here in Wyoming, if you can believe it or not. That happened here in the state, and there's an article about it in Cowboy State Daily, and I reached out to TJ to see if he wanted to chat about it. So yeah, we'll do that, and we'll come back here with news and weather. Wendy's got the news, Don Day's got the weather, and your buddy Bags has got the rest of the stuff in between. So I appreciate you tuning in, being patient with me, and hanging out. I'm going to be here till 10 o'clock, substitute hosting for Jake Nichols here on Cowboy State Daily Radio. It is 7 o'clock.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Friday, March 28th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. An endorsement from President Donald Trump holds a lot of weight in the Cowboy State, which has supported Trump's bids for president with a larger margin than any other state for 3 elections in a row. On Wednesday night, Trump endorsed U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis's 2026 re-election bid. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that Lummis expressed gratitude for Trump's endorsement.
Trump commended her work on cryptocurrency issues and said that she is definitely an American first type senator that would be great to reelect in Wyoming. Lummis was particularly happy, obviously, to get Trump's endorsement. She said that Powder River let her buck. Thank you, President Trump. I will never stop fighting for Wyoming. Its people are proud patriots, freedom maximalists, and lovers of liberty. It is truly the last best place on earth.
Despite a few rankles with the Wyoming Republican Party, Lummis has enjoyed a relatively high level of popularity during her time in office. Once it became clear that President Donald Trump was likely to get the Republican nomination in his bid for re-election, Lummis quickly aligned with him and since that time has consistently supported his efforts. Well, it's cold comfort for the 28 coal mine workers laid off last week by Kemmerer Operations LLC, but Wyoming coal industry watchers see evidence of an uptick in coal production and sales to electric utilities. The job losses equal around 13% of the mine's workforce and the reduction, according to Cowboy State Daily's David Madison, but there are signs that coal production could increase in Wyoming and elsewhere.
We had 28 people laid off in Kemmerer, which they're hoping to have those employees absorbed in some of the other natural resource extraction industries around that area. And there certainly is a lot going on. At the same time, folks are losing their job. Things are looking up as far as future coal orders go. So I spoke to someone at the Wyoming Mining Association, and they said, hey, contracts are coming in right now. Power plants are purchasing Wyoming coal.
The Kemmerer Operations mine produced 2.4 million tons of coal in 2024 with a staff of 215 workers. Wyoming will lose around $40 million in federal COVID-era grants that it's used to track infectious diseases, provide immunizations, and fight substance abuse addiction as part of the cuts made by President Donald Trump's administration on Wednesday. The Wyoming Department of Health confirmed to Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson that the state expects to lose more than $39 million in grant funding for its public health division and nearly $1 million for its behavioral health division.
I spoke to Representative Rachel Rodriguez-Williams, who is the chairman of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus and also the chair of the House Health, Labor, and Social Services Committee. She supports the cuts, saying that she applauds President Trump's mission to properly allocate taxpayer dollars and a willingness to make tough decisions. I spoke to health advocacy group Better Wyoming, who slammed the news in a statement provided to Cowboy State Daily.
Wednesday's cuts are part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services move to cancel around $12 billion in federal grants to states that were allocated this money during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Did you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
Well, Bighorn Basin Towing in Cody is planning one of its most challenging recoveries. A battered pickup is precariously perched on a cliff face near Wapiti, and they're hoping to recover it intact. The irony is the truck belongs to one of the business's co-workers. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi spoke to Eric Lopez, who said he never thought one of his most challenging recoveries would be for his own vehicle.
He drives his truck, Old Blue, back home, parks it, and goes inside to get some rest. That night, the winds pick up in Cody, as they often do, and they were strong enough to roll the truck down the cliff, off the cliff, and get it wedged into a crevice and amongst some giant tooth-shaped rocks. And the only explanation that Eric Lopez, the co-owner, has is that he must have forgotten to put on the parking brake when he parked it, and the winds were strong enough to push this Ford F-250 up and over a cliff.
Although the truck crumpled in the fall, the Bighorn Basin Towing Crew believes Old Blue could be salvageable. They won't know until it goes. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. There was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Learn more at helpheart.org.
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this beautiful spring weather we've had this week, because change is in the air. We're going to see changes early today out in western Wyoming, where some showers developed overnight, and there's going to be a little bit of rain and snow shower activity in the west early in the day today. The main event, though, starts tonight. We're going to see a Pacific wave come through, and areas of rain will develop, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, especially in the central and eastern parts of Wyoming. And overnight tonight into Saturday morning, that wave could bring a good shot of moisture. Mainly rain on the plains, maybe mixing with snow down to 6,000 feet. We do need to watch out for the higher elevations of Interstate 80, especially between Laramie and Cheyenne and Laramie and Rawlins. There could be some travel concerns there late tonight and tomorrow morning. Another wave will come through, bringing another shot of rain and snow to parts of Wyoming as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Now, these two systems will affect all of Wyoming, with some precipitation, much colder temperatures, and some travel hazards, especially over the mountain passes. So be prepared for change this weekend.
As Don said, some changes in the weather. 54 degrees in Sheridan right now, and some light rain out there. It's here. Turning to snow later this weekend. So what happened? So yeah, we thank you to Wendy and Don for updating us. The latest news. Cowboy State Daily is something you should be subscribed to. One of our top stories on there from our correspondent Leah Wolfson. President Trump endorsement to Cynthia Loomis for re-election to the Senate. That story broke overnight. Who has supported Trump bids for president with a larger margin than any other state for 3 elections in a row. That's us in Wyoming. On Wednesday night, Trump endorsed Cynthia Loomis in her re-election bid. Cynthia is fighting tirelessly to grow the economy, cut taxes and regulations, secure our border, defend our always under siege Second Amendment, strengthen our incredible military vets, and put our great farmers, ranchers, and energy producers first. Trump wrote that on his social media platform, Truth Social. I've got my caller is calling. Hang on there, Ryan. I will get to you in just 1 second. Okay, well, I do have an interview set up here, and that's him. And that's what happens when you don't turn your phone down. But yeah, I've got an interesting conversation I want to talk. Doom scrolling. Cynthia is fighting tirelessly for us, says President Trump. And Loomis has my complete and total endorsement for re-election. Never let you down. Let's see if I can bring up, if you're on there waiting for me, I'm going to bring up our Zoom, and if you zoom on there, I will bring you into the conversation here. But not yet. Standing by. We'll get him on there at some point here. Okay, let's check out some of the other headlines here at Cowboy State Daily today. Yeah, we do have this great story here. The one I just mentioned about the wind blowing a truck off a cliff in the where was that? That was over in the Cody area. It was a Cody towing company too. That's what makes it an interesting story. Trump bans Northern Arapaho Tribe's law firm from federal contracts. The White House, hang on, they've got to get the story up here. President Trump on Tuesday called private law firm Jenner and Block LLP a hub of partisan lawfare in order for the federal government to stop doing business with the firm, wherever practical and lawful. The president also told all federal agencies to cancel contracts for which the firm has been hired to do any service, a move that may impact the Northern Arapaho tribe. The blackballing appears partly tied to the firm's rehiring of a former federal prosecutor who worked on the special counsel investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Gender and Block started working for the Northern Arapaho tribe in 2020, according to the firm's federal lobbying disclosure report. So, and let's see what else on the news docket here. The power plants burning more of Wyoming's coal so far here in 2025. That's good news for our economy and a lot of our citizens in the industry. It's cold comfort for the 28 coal mine workers laid off last week by Kemmerer Operations LLC, but Wyoming coal industry watchers are see evidence of an uptick in coal production and sales to electric utilities. The job losses equal around 13% of the mine's workforce, and the reduction, according to a company press statement, is part of its ongoing effort to align operations with current coal market conditions, including those caused by the pending natural gas conversions of several coal-fired power plants in the region. The company appreciates the contributions and hard work of the impacted employees and values its long-standing partnership with the United Mine Workers of America. Continuing in this statement, the Kemmerer Operations mine produced 2.4 million tons of coal in 2024 with a staff of 215 workers, according to federal data. The 2.4 million tons contributed to roughly 190 million tons of Wyoming producers sold last year. That was below an earlier projection from a November 2024 University of Wyoming report that forecasted 225 million tons of production in 2024. This article is written by, again, one of our great correspondents, reporters here at CowboyStateDaily.com. If you're not subscribed, you're missing out. It's a great source here with a lot of focus here in the Cowboy State and the Rocky Mountain West. David Madison is the author of that story. It says that it's also the first time since 1992 that the annual coal production dropped below 200 million tons. Said David Teddy, an executive director of the Wyoming Mining Association, there are signs production could increase. The utilities, it's their responsibility to dispatch the lowest price fuel possible. DTI told Cowboy State Daily, and when gas prices go up, coal becomes a little bit more desirable. And so we're kind of seeing that right now, according to Travis DTI, I'm going to say, or Deti, D-E-T-I. Okay, I'm going to take a little break here. Hopefully I could set up this great call I have with Ryan, good friend, very humorous individual. We will see what Ryan has in store, and a little conversation maybe about doom scrolling or what do they call it? Rage baiting. Yeah, that's happening. That's in the new lexicon out there. Rage baiting and doom scrolling. All right, we'll come back. We'll do a little bit of information for you here in this break. And you'll be back listening to your Buddy Bags, the substitute host for Jake Nichols on Cowboy State Daily Radio.
Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in Du Bois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean into our everyday lives. Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily video newscast every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com. This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Gracie and Pedro might not get along so well.
You're standing on my tail.
But there's one thing they agree on. There's a right seat for everyone.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Whether you're a dog,
Hold on, Pooch.
a cat, a fish, or a rat.
And I'm a ferret.
Be sure to travel safe.
How can you be so sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
On your next adventure, make sure your children are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
So I wanted to talk with you and your mom today, Lily, because some people at school have noticed changes going on with you, and we're concerned.
Like what? Who?
Some of your friends, teachers. It sounds like you've lost interest in a lot of things lately. You're hanging with new friends.
So?
So, individually, maybe those things are no big deal, but taken together, and then the incident the other day, you were with Derek when he was caught selling marijuana.
Yeah, he was selling it.
Honey, we know. But we care about you and want to know what's going on.
That's right. We just want to understand better and see how we might help. And if weed is a part of it, we just want to make sure you understand the negative consequences for someone your age, the physical and mental health effects, the poor decision making, and the confusing legal aspects these days. So what do you say? Can we talk?
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Come on! Go, Diane! Yeah, keep it going! Yeah! Go, honey!
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane! Woo! You got this!
It is your buddy Bags. It is 7:19 on a Friday. I'm substitute host for Jake and Shireen, who's been here the last few days, doing a great job. She very impressive, and just great that we have such a great team here working together at Cowboy State Daily Radio. Now, if you tuned in earlier, I was focusing on an article that our own Tom Lubnow, one of our columnists here at cowboystatedaily.com, wrote about, primarily about what he calls rage baiting, which has to do with, going all over social media, just looking for a reason to be angry. And that to me caught my attention because look at this, I'm upside down. That is comical. I tell you, there's just one more thing here. Let's see if I can fix that. Oh, unreal. This is comical, buddy, I tell you. Can you see me, Ryan? Ryan, can you see me?
You look right side up to me.
Seriously?
Yes.
On my screen, I'm upside down. Literally. It's just par for the course, buddy. I'll tell you, it's one of those, shut up boomer situations that, you live and learn. So 42 years in radio, first 2 weeks in streaming digital radio. So here we go. So I'm just going to assume if you can see me right side up, so can our audience, because that could be very annoying. But anyway, so, okay, Ryan Legler. Ryan, let's first introduce you, how we know each other. I have I've seen you on stage, I think now 3 times, doing stand-up comedy. Okay. And every time I'm just impressed with not only that you're funny, thank goodness, uh, but also that you're very topical and you're very focused on our neck of the woods, where we are in the Rocky Mountain West, and especially here in Wyoming. So when I read this article, I did see some of the humorous aspects of it, and that's how I thought of you. Did you get the article? I think I emailed it over to you. Is your mic on? Hang on a second here. I am for a moment. I just can't hear you. If you're speaking, if you can hear me, let's get into the Zoom back here. Okay, I lost you there for a second. Okay. Uno momento, por favor. Oh, I have somebody else calling in. Terry, if that's you, could you give us, or TJ, I should say, give us a few minutes here. I'll be calling you back. I've got a interview with him coming up here shortly, but I wanted to finish this conversation with Ryan. Okay, so let's see. TJ, is that you? Are you on? Can you hear me?
Sure can, yep.
Oh, hey, how are you, buddy? I was chit-chatting with Ryan Legler. Ryan, if you're still listening, I will get back to you. We will cover the story and the article about roge, what is it called? Rage baiting is what we were talking about. But right now I have TJ Doan on. TJ, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing all right, my friend. Listen, I saw that article about you and how you were dealing with a little bit of maybe some rage baiting in a different avenue. So tell us what happened to you. You own a Tesla. You're in Casper, correct?
No, Cheyenne.
Cheyenne. Okay, you're in Cheyenne, and you are a proud owner of a Tesla. Which one do you drive?
I personally drive a Cybertruck.
The Cybertruck. So, did you read the article where there was a couple of incidents of vandalism to the Tesla vehicles? Did you happen to see that? Yes. And
I've heard several across the country, and only so far one incident in Wyoming.
And so, what's your? I mean, you're a Tesla driver here in Wyoming, and which is somewhat rare. I think the percentage of electric vehicle owners is pretty dang small.
It's actually growing since I first got my Model 3 6 years ago. The amount of Teslas just in Cheyenne has risen significantly. We have like at least 7 or 8 Cybertrucks that I know of in Cheyenne too. So
yeah, well, and I do see them around Sheridan as well. So how about you? What's your experience been? You've seen some of these incidents across the country. Do you get any feedback or positive or negative from folks who are kind of, as we described it, rage baiting over the issue of Elon Musk? What's been your experience?
yeah, I haven't seen any of that personally. Just a friend of mine who had something happen to them, but people like to give me either thumbs up, thumbs down, shake their head, whatever. I just get that kind of stuff. I don't get anything too terribly bad.
What was your friend's experience?
Well, they went to, I think, Longmont to be nice to the police officers and Tesla employees to bring some snacks to them. And as they were out of their vehicle, their sentry mode caught a young lady who put her naked bottom on their vehicle.
When you say put it on there, like leaving an imprint, or did they dent it?
Yeah, no, well, she wasn't that big, but no, it was just a young lady who just pulled out her pants and just rubbed her butt on the vehicle.
Yeah, so listen, my experience with Wyoming folks is we are very tolerant of each other. That's just my background in Wyoming is Wheatland, then Sheridan, then Laramie, then Cheyenne, and then Denver for 32 years. And then 5 years ago, I just kind of made it to my limit. Denver outgrew me a long time ago. I remember when it was just a big old cow town, and it's very safe. And generally, people were pretty cooperative with each other, at least more, I would call it tolerant of each other. But now, you see a lot more political angst, people, going left or going right, and not really wanting to rendezvous in the middle. Do you drive? Do you take your Tesla down to Denver?
I have taken it to Denver a lot, actually, but not overseas. I think the last time was Super Bowl Sunday, actually, and nothing happened then. So.
Yeah, well, and no negative, the middle finger salute or anything like that.
Oh, I get that regularly. That's okay.
Well, and has nothing to do with your car. Is that?
I don't know why they do it. A lot of them hate either Tesla or Elon, or just that they don't like the Cybertruck. So, but no matter what, they always look. They're always eye contact to the truck. Every time I drive by, they can't stop looking, whether they love it or hate it. So.
Well, I was just teasing, saying that they were just flipping you off because they know.
No, they actually do.
Okay. Well, I wrote a story. I do a blog on my personal website, and I did a story about I call it the one finger salute, and then the good kind, where Wyoming folks, depending on the road, because there's got to be some unwritten rule about where we wave at each other. Basically, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you're out on a country road out in the middle of nowhere, and
hand on the steering wheel, yeah.
Exactly, and that's certainly not common in everywhere. It might be common in a lot of rural areas, but it is a very, very typical thing to run into here in Wyoming. Where, TJ, if you're coming towards me and I'm coming towards you and the road is small enough or rural enough or in the backcountry enough, we're going to wave at each other. What do you think that's about? Why? How does that phenomena occur?
Yeah, I don't know. I never actually was told why. We just do it. And it's just, you're just saying hi to the person, just in case, someone breaks down, you want to have, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I might need you.
That's what I think it is. You just nailed it. I was going to say that. My theory is that we're out here. It's a little bit rural and lacking of tow trucks and repair shops. But if something happens to you, I'm here for you, and it's nice to know that you're here for me. And I think that's what it is, because if you're on a big enough or busy enough road, people don't wave. Our wave, the one finger wave, the finger off the steering wheel wave, sometimes two fingers,
right?
But never the middle finger.
Right.
But if the road, now you get up to about a county-sized road, maybe not, and then for sure once you get to a state highway or an interstate, ain't nobody waving at each other.
Also, you can't see each other. It's too far away, or you're going too fast, or something.
You bet. Well. All right. Well, hey, listen, thanks for sharing that information. I saw that your comments on your Tesla. I'm glad that folks in Cheyenne are just doing what we in Wyoming should be doing, which is live and let live.
That's right. Just tolerate if worst case.
For crying out loud. It's TJ Doan, and TJ's in Cheyenne, and I certainly appreciate you being here with us on Cowboy State Daily Radio with your buddy Bags. And you have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. It's about at the bottom of the hour, 7:30. I think I blew right through a conversation with Don Day. I do want to get a Don Day forecast. If Don's listening, Don, I'm going to try to get to you. Apologize for me not paying good enough attention to the clock. So we'll go to a break here, and we'll come back and hopefully be yapping with our buddy Don Day here on Cowboy State Daily Radio.
Gracie and Pedro might not get along so well.
You're standing on my tail.
But there's one thing they agree on. There's a right seat for everyone.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Whether you're a dog,
Hold on, Pooch.
a cat, a fish, or a rat.
And I am a ferret.
Be sure to travel safe.
How can you be so sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
On your next adventure, make sure your children are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
So I wanted to talk with you and your mom today, Lily, because some people at school have noticed changes going on with you. And we're concerned.
Like what? Who?
Some of your friends, teachers. It sounds like you've lost interest in a lot of things lately. You're hanging with new friends.
So?
So, individually, maybe those things are no big deal. But taken together, and then the incident the other day, you were with Derek when he was caught selling marijuana.
Yeah, he was selling it.
Honey, we know. But we care about you and want to know what's going on.
That's right. We just want to understand better and see how we might help. And if weed is a part of it, we just want to make sure you understand the negative consequences for someone your age. The physical and mental health effects, the poor decision making, and the confusing legal aspects these days. So what do you say? Can we talk?
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Come on! Go, Diane! Yeah, keep it going! Yeah! Go, honey!
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane! Woo! You got this!
This is the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network. Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Core, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in DuBois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean to our everyday lives? Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily Video Newscast every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday, March 28th. Cowboy State Daily Radio. Your buddy Bags here about 7:36 in the morning on a Friday. Substitute hosting for my friend Jake Nichols, your regular Cowboy State Daily morning show host, who's on vacation. I hope he's enjoying it. I know that he's been helping me out, making sure that I handle everything well and not to chase all of his audience away in his absence. So I'm going to give you a little forecast. I was going to talk to Don Day here at some point and get into details because we do have a significant weather front moving in. So let me get you. Here's what Don puts up for Wyoming here in general. A mix of partly cloudy to mostly cloudy to cloudy skies today across the state with precipitation expected in most areas to move in at some point. For the Casper area, slight chance of rain and snow after 5 o'clock today. Actually, it says rain, not rain and snow. Increasing clouds and breezy with a high near 65 and wind gusts as high as 20 miles per hour. Cloudy overnight with a chance of rain mainly after 10 o'clock and a low near 40. And again, as the temperatures cool, we're going to see some of that white stuff again. This is the big Rocky Mountain West spring tease. So those who are not from here, it does this. 70 degrees one day, snow the next. Okay, over Jeffrey City, chance of rain as well. Partly sunny today, 61 for a high, becoming cloudy overnight. And the southwest part of the state, over in Rock Springs, a chance of rain, mainly after 5 o'clock, otherwise partly sunny today with a high near 56, wind gusts as high as 20 miles per hour, gradually becoming partly cloudy overnight with a chance of rain before 10, and a low near 31. And the western part of our state, Pinedale, mostly cloudy with a high near 46. Over in Afton, a slight chance of rain after 3 o'clock, increasing clouds today. And, okay, let me see if Don's available so we can have our little chit-chat here. All right, Don, I'm going to head over to the Zoom here. If you'll hop on there with me, we'll be able to see each other and hang out. And so, otherwise, I'm going to finish doing my weather forecast. Are you there, my friend? Not at the moment, but I'll check back. Don, if you're listening, go ahead and Zoom. Oh, Zoom. Okay, I'll let him know. But yeah, we do have significant moisture headed our direction, so I wanted to bring Don Day up and get a good weekend forecast, maybe look a little bit ahead, give everybody an idea. How about I go into this next commercial break? Oh, never mind. There's Don. Right on. Okay. Hey, Don, hang on a second. And let me get you, share the space with you here in the Zoom room. There you are. It's been a little bit of a challenge, buddy.
Hey, new tech.
Yeah.
New tech.
That's okay. God, if you do, Jake is on vacation, right? And I had a little snafu this morning. My OBS program wasn't talking to my mixer board, so everything was going out, but I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, wonderful.
So, and I don't even know how much of that people could see me struggling. This whole idea of our faces being on here, Don, look at us.
I know, right? In radio, you put on a ball cap in the morning. You might shave once or twice a week.
I trim my beard. That's not
oh my
funny.
gosh! I've got to actually be presentable.
Yeah. Well, I told you the other day. We think we know each other from a significant while back in like the mid to late 80s even.
Yeah.
So I don't want to age you, and thanks for not aging me. But we are radio dinosaurs, and I've been listening to you do weather for so long. I don't even know how long. It's been like 30-some years you've been doing this, right?
Yeah, I'm on my 33rd year, I think, of doing this. 33 or 34. Yeah, longer than I care to admit.
Yeah, you and me both. But anyway, the other day we got on a Zoom together, and I got to see you for the first time, and I thought, man, radio guy, Not too bad. Not too bad. Listen, I started into a forecast just today and tonight, really, into tomorrow. But I have been looking ahead here at the radar, and we do have significant moisture moving into the state, and it is the weekend. So I thought I'd bring you up and we'd chat about what's in store and what people can expect.
Well, this is really a good news situation. I know that no one likes lousy weather during the weekend, but we're going to get some rain and snow in places that really, really need it. The southeast and the east central part of the state in particular. Places like Laramie, Cheyenne, Wheatland, Torrington, Douglas, and Lusk have really been missing the storms here this month of March, but this system is going to bring those areas some rain tonight and tomorrow. The rest of the state is going to have scattered rain and snow tonight and tomorrow morning, but there's two systems. This first one tonight and tomorrow. Then there's another one coming in tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. Now, that one's colder. That one's going to bring down snow levels. And, there's two areas of travel concerns. One is tonight and tomorrow morning along the high elevations of Interstate 80. And then for tomorrow afternoon and into Sunday morning, all of the mountain passes are going to get snowed on. So if you've got to travel, watch those higher elevations, and I do see it getting cold enough that some parts of the state will see some snow.
Well, here at Sheridan, we've had our fair share. We had a slow start to the winter season, and then all of a sudden it was here, and it has really stuck around. We had 75 degrees yesterday here in Sheridan, but it's already cooled off. Waylon and I, the yellow lab, went out and checked things out. It was a little misty out there, and we could feel the change, and looked up on the Bighorns, and it looks like it may be snowing up there already. So,
yes,
here in Sheridan, after the experience we had with the elk fire last year, 100,000 acres, incredible experience, Don. My very first. I've, of course, been around a few wildfires, but maybe the largest was in the couple thousand acres range. In fact, we have a cabin up there, and we did have a fire within range, but because of the fires over in Gillette, what did they call those fires? I can't remember. But a significant, prairie type fire.
Two big fires, right?
Yeah. So they happen to have helicopters and the ability to put something out quickly. So this fire, which very likely was a campfire because it was very close to a campground up there, all the equipment was here, and they got to it so quickly, it never grew to more than like 6 or 7 acres. So that we're having that experience, and within weeks of that, the elk fire. I'm coming down Red Grade. If you've spent any time up here, that's one way into the Bighorns, and not an easy way. And I looked to my left, which was to the north, and there's this plume going on. There's a plume. That was day one of that fire. And so from that day for over a month, it went just crazy. So saying all that about the elk fire and that experience to say, you won't hear Sheridan, Dayton, Ranchester, Buffalo folks complain about moisture.
No, not at all. And it's been a nice turnaround. And I think for the rest of spring that, getting back to near average precipitation is a pretty good bet. So that should put us in a better position as we get into next summer. So I do need to run off to another call, but do be ready for more weather next week, not just this weekend, but there's more coming later on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Don. We'll talk to you again
Thank you.
later.
Have a good morning.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, Don Day, the legendary weatherman here in Wyoming, Cowboy State Daily's own. And I've got, I'm going to take a break here. Andrew Rossi, he's one of our very own correspondents, reporters, news guys here at Cowboy State Daily. Him and I wanted to have a little chat about what's going on in the world today. So I'm going to ask you to stand by, and when we come back, we'll talk to reporter Andrew Rossi here on Cowboy State Daily Radio.
In today's digital world, it's hard to know who to trust. Your local TV and radio stations bring you the facts. Misinformation and deep fakes flood social media, but broadcasters deliver verified and accurate news. For news, emergency updates, sports, and entertainment, turn to your local stations. Text TV to 52886 and urge Congress to support the vital local journalism broadcasters provide.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Breathe. Love what you do and you've already won, my parents used to say. My parents whose smiles were my first finish line, who championed respect, whose resilience built mine. Even more than I wanted a gold medal, I wanted a heart of gold, like the mentors who were my balance beams, refusing to let me down, and the coaches who spoke out to anything out of bounds, heroes who never stood on podiums, but stood up for me. Every shot I made, give the assist to those who since my youth were referees, ready to blow the whistle and end abuse.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network. Want to stay in touch with what's happening around Wyoming? I'm Wendy Core, host of the Cowboy State Daily Video Newscast. From Mountain View to Upton, from Jackson to Cheyenne, our reporters are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. Every day, I talk to the talented journalists who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, I bring you their stories. Tune in to Cowboy State Daily Video News every morning, only on CowboyStateDaily.com.
Wyoming is a big state.
Little slip of the finger there.
Well, Wyoming is a big state. There's no denying.
Hey, Andrew.
Morning.
How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing all right. It's Friday. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. No doubt about it. Here, I think I had the forecast with Don Day just now. So, yeah, here we go. The big tease. 75 in Sheridan yesterday. It's about 45 misty, and we're expecting snow here later. So, don't get your hopes up yet. It's
the most wonderful time of the year.
March and April, this part of the world, for anybody that's new, we get a lot of snow. We get a lot of moisture, I should say. This is when we get it, and we need to get it. So, listen, Andrew, you and I have not yet met in person, but I've seen you online many times, and you're quite aerodynamic. I should say that's what it looks like here on the Zoom. So,
I'll take that as a compliment.
I absolutely meant it as, and I've been reading and following your news stories. How long have you been a reporter here and correspondent with Cowboy State Daily?
It'll be 2 years in July. So I'm still a little green around the gills. At least I consider myself to be.
Well, it's good to, and you look, quite, another compliment, young. And so it's good to get a perspective from your demographic too, which is incredible. You're writing, you can tell, very talented. One of the ones that I was, the stories that you wrote that is in the Cowboy State Daily this morning is, and again, we could talk about whichever story you want to, but the one that got me is the tow truck service that dumped their pickup truck into a canyon. And tell us a little bit about that. That made me chuckle.
Well, it's one of those circumstances where I think anybody can relate to or has been in a similar circumstance. Eric Lopez, he's the co-owner of Bighorn Basin Towing up here in Cody, and he just wasn't feeling well one night, so he drove his truck to his home and he parked it and went inside to get some rest, but he didn't put the parking brake on. It's a 1997 F-250. And now I think we've all been in a spot where we've forgotten to put the parking brake on and the cars roll a little bit. I mean, anybody can be innocent of that. But in this case, he has a house near the edge of a cliff. So that night it was extremely windy. We had winds of up to 70 miles per hour, if not higher. And with no parking brake, the winds pushed the truck and the truck went over the cliff and it's still there. They haven't been able to recover it yet. They tried to get a skid steer at the bottom of this ravine to pull the rocks down and see if they could pull the truck down. That didn't work, so they're going to get a dozer there next week to see if they can do the same strategy, just with a much heavier vehicle. And I'm hoping, they said that they would tell me when and where it was going to happen so I could get some footage of that. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to head out there and watch this recovery in action.
We do have a photograph. Are you the photographer on that, or maybe we should give?
No, I'm not. I do not know where this incident occurred, so I just got photos from Eric, and that's the state of the Old Blue, as they call their truck, and it doesn't look great, but they're optimistic that if they can keep if all the internal parts, that the essential parts are intact, then they want to rebuild it and get it back on the road. So hopefully a lot of the stuff that you see will buff right out.
Yeah, listen, I'm no expert, but from the looks of that picture, it looks total to me.
Well, you don't walk away from a fall like that. In this case, they're going to need a bulldozer, hopefully, to be able to get it out this time.
All right, well, go to Cowboy State Daily, and if you don't subscribe, do. And take a look at the pictures and read Andrew's story. It's funny, now we're just on the topic. One of the other stories was the YDOT snowplow. Earlier this week, you were talking about the snowplow getting stuck. What's up with that? We're on a roll here with traffic issues, I guess.
Yeah, well, again, it's that time of year. You don't know what you're going to encounter. One of those places where you don't know what conditions you're going to find are the Chief Joseph Highway. So I was talking with Sean, the YDOT driver. He's been a YDOT driver for 22 years. He's one of the most experienced drivers in Northwest Wyoming, if not Wyoming at this point. He knows his way around a plow truck. So he was on the Chief Joseph Highway. He saw a massive snowdrift. He tried to get through it. He couldn't, but he kept at it. He called for backup because he recognized this was going to take more than just his truck. But he decided to give it one more earnest go, thinking if he just had enough steam and enough momentum, he could get through this final push back to the pavement exposed just beyond. And he sped through it. He hit a berm. The truck launched, and he got a snowplow truck stuck for the first time in his career. Like he said, he's gotten stuck in the past, but he's been able to get himself out. He was completely stuck this time, and that was a first. So there's always something to learn, and you're never too late for a first time.
I was traveling in August from Cheyenne over the pass on I-80 to Laramie once in August in a whiteout snowstorm, and I lived in Wyoming since 1976. Well, with a hiatus in the middle in Colorado, but I'm from here, so I know that it does happen. But people who are traveling here now, they get, hey, it's spring, let's go to Yellowstone, and they get here. And I'm telling you, you can be surprised any time of year that the weather will go south. And of course, it was August, so nobody had the right kind of tires. If they were coming from somewhere else and they had snow tires, maybe back in Illinois, they certainly didn't have them on in August in Wyoming. And I remember I counted probably 25 vehicles between Vita Vu and what's the memorial up on top, the Lincoln Memorial up there. But it was just a mess, and cars left and right in August. And of course, I pulled over. One of my favorite things to do with my tow rope is to help people get unstuck. I had
That's generous of you.
Sierra pickup truck with a tow rope, and just laughing, hearing their shock that they were in a whiteout. It was a whiteout. I can verify that that it was happening to them in August, and they thought they were home free as far as weather traveling in Wyoming. So it's not uncommon, right, my friend?
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes it's not even weather related things. I remember one time I went to Yellowstone for a day trip in August or September. Can't remember exactly when, but it was just quick in, quick out. But in between the time I was there and the time I left, which couldn't have been more than 3 hours, there was a mudslide out just outside the east entrance that blocked the road completely for several hours. So I remember seeing a slowdown as I was leaving. It's like, oh, that can't be good. So I just pulled over at Pahaskatipi and I laid my car seat down and I slept for a couple hours until YDOT got one lane open. I was able to head back to Cody. So it's half the fun of being out here. You're never quite sure. But if you're prepared, it's fun. If you're not, it's not the most pleasant experience.
So we recommend being prepared. I've never been on a mudslide, but I was, and this was in Colorado. And of course, you always see those watch for falling rocks, right? And yeah,
oh yeah,
okay, well, we kind of ignore it after a while, right? And this rock, probably about the size of a wheel tire, it came. I could see it coming, though. It was about halfway down the hillside, and it ended up. We got stopped, but it only missed at the time I was driving to Jimmy. It only missed our vehicle by a matter of feet. And of course, there was little, smaller rocks coming behind it, but this one got airborne and went across and landed in the middle of the road. Would have done some serious damage because when the melt happens and the runoff, the water gets in there and loosens things up. So, got to be careful when you're driving through canyons.
Call me crazy. I worry about the tiny rocks because they always hit my windshield and leave little cracks and holes that I'm not fond of. But what can you do?
You bet. Well, hey, listen, Andrew, I'm doing the Saturday show every Saturday now. Well, with occasional day off, I hope. But 6A to 10A on Saturdays. Would you do me a favor every now and then? Check in with me on a Saturday?
I'd be happy to.
Especially if you've got a great story. Shoot me a text, give me a call, and point it out to me if I miss it on Cowboy State Daily, our newspaper. I say newspaper, newsletter, email. I get it emailed to me every single day, and everybody should. You can subscribe, and you should. But if something comes up and you want to chit-chat about it, I'd love to do it. That's what my weekend show is. I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit, you know what I mean, from the usual news-focused weekday show. No offense to Jake. Great show, but I'm going to try to a little bit of entertainment, some sports, and so if anything runs across your desk like that, hey, give me a call, would you?
Well, they tend to hold a lot of my stories for the weekend for just that purpose, so I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about.
You bet. All right, Andrew Rossi, correspondent here, columnist, reporter. How do you describe yourself?
I respect. The reason they keep me around is how I describe myself.
Easy enough. All right. Well, you take care. Thanks for joining me this morning on Cowboy State Daily Radio. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. Well, we'll do our newscast coming up. Wendy Core has the news. I get to talk to Wendy next hour. Let me get back to the airport. You don't have to look at me twice. I'm going to talk to Wendy Core. She's our news director here at Cowboy State Daily next hour. And a little chat, but she'll have the newscast for you here at the top of the hour. We'll do that, and we'll be back here on Cowboy State Daily Radio. It's 8 o'clock.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. There was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Friday, March 28th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. President Donald Trump on Tuesday called private law firm Jenner & Block LLP a hub of partisan lawfare and ordered the federal government to stop doing business with the firm wherever practical and lawful. The president also told all federal agencies to cancel contracts for which the firm has been hired to do any service, a move that may impact the Northern Arapaho tribe, according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland.
The order says if Jenner & Block worked on your federal contract, we're going to take a good look at that and maybe even canceling it in the name of making sure no taxpayer dollars go to Jenner and Block. That's the order. With the tribe, you can tell that Jenner and Block is at the very least very well versed in these contracts because they're lobbying agencies and Congress about them all the time. So there's some strong indication that they may be involved with these contracts, which would put them in Trump's crosshairs.
Jenner and Block lobbies Congress and federal agencies on the tribe's behalf with respect to Indian Health Service funding, housing funding, water infrastructure, Bureau of Indian Affairs funding, public health, and other matters. A prolonged dispute over fireworks businesses that sit just north of the Wyoming-Colorado border on I-25 appears set to take off again. Laramie County commissioners have again denied a permit for one of 4 fireworks businesses owned by Seasonal Fireworks, the same Colorado company they previously described as obnoxious. The business owner's father, Pete Elliott, who manages the fireworks stores for his daughter Brianna, told Cowboy State Daily's Renee Jean that he's being unfairly portrayed and discriminated against by both Laramie County commissioners and a rival business.
His daughter had filed a suit last year saying that the county had been arbitrary and discriminatory against the business because the business has satisfied all the requirements for a business permit. But the commissioners are called to weigh the balance of public good as well. And it's not just a rubber stamp when you get your permit because you checked all these boxes.
Last year, a court ordered Laramie County to issue seasonal fireworks permits to preserve the status quo during a lawsuit Brianna filed, examining whether the county's 2024 denial was arbitrary and capricious. A North Carolina man took a creative and goofy approach to bear deterrence. In a video making the rounds on social media, the man steps out of his house in a bear suit to spook away a black bear that had plunked down on his lawn. The Cowboy State Daily's Mark Hines spoke to Wyoming bear experts who said trying that tactic on a grizzly bear would probably get a person mauled, possibly killed, or perhaps even worse.
They said, yeah, it might have worked for that guy, but no, not a good idea. In Wyoming, a grizzly probably isn't going to take it the way that black bear took it, number one. And number two, they also, to put it delicately, they brought up the possibility, what if it's mating season for bears and the bear gets the wrong idea?
One Wyoming wildlife photographer, who himself has been charged by animals like bears and moose a time or two, told Cowboy State Daily that he admires the creativity of the man's approach to bear deterrence, but doesn't recommend it for Wyoming. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Do you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
The late former Wyoming U.S. Senator Al Simpson was brought into the Wyoming State Capitol Rotunda on Thursday to lie in state, one of the last opportunities for the public to pay tribute to the man. Simpson died March 14th at the age of 93. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson was at the ceremony Thursday morning at the Capitol when Simpson's flag-draped casket was carried into the Capitol by a military procession from the Army National Guard.
The event was just kind of honoring a man who started his career in politics at the Wyoming Capitol. Interestingly enough, he was in the legislature for about 12 years before he went over to the U.S. Senate for 18 years. So it's kind of where it all started, one could say, and his body will lie in state there until Friday afternoon is when it will be removed.
At 11 a.m. Saturday, Simpson's family will host a free celebration of life for Simpson at the University of Wyoming's Arena Auditorium. His funeral service will take place Monday morning in Cody, an event that will be broadcast live on Wyoming PBS. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this beautiful spring weather we've had this week because change is in the air. We're going to see changes early today out in western Wyoming where some showers developed overnight, and there's going to be a little bit of rain and snow shower activity in the west early in the day today. The main event, though, starts tonight. We're going to see a Pacific wave come through and areas of rain will develop, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, especially in the central and eastern parts of Wyoming. And overnight tonight into Saturday morning, that wave could bring a good shot of moisture. Mainly rain on the plains, maybe mixing with snow down to 6,000 feet. We do need to watch out for the higher elevations of Interstate 80, especially between Laramie and Cheyenne and Laramie and Rollins. There could be some travel concerns there late tonight and tomorrow morning. Another wave will come through, bringing another shot of rain and snow to parts of Wyoming as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Now, these two systems will affect all of Wyoming, with some precipitation, much colder temperatures, and some travel hazards, especially over the mountain passes. So be prepared for change this weekend.
Right now it's 55 degrees here in Sheridan. A little cloudy, some misty rain in the air. It looks like some snow on top of the Bighorn Mountains as I look out my window here in my little studio at my house in Sheridan. And John Baggett is here, substitute hosting for Jake. Actually substituting for Shireen, who's substituting for Jake. And I could see Bill Sniffin is on here. Bill, I've been talking about the weather. It's funny that that article that you wrote recently about too hot, too cold, too windy. Why do old men talk about the weather so much? And by looking at the two of us in the gray in our beard, we might fit that description. What do you think, Bill?
Well, good morning, John. Nice to meet you.
As well.
I do think that us old guys, we do love to talk about the weather, and I finally thought I'm going to write a column about this and just say, try to figure out why we do it. Of course, the conclusion I came up with is when I looked back on my own life, and I've had all these amazing weather experiences. It really is it's the old game, who saw it worse? You think that was bad? Man, when back in 1964 or back in 1971, man, you should have seen the snow. And it's like when I was a kid, of course, we walked in the snow uphill both ways in irrigator boots.
Yes.
It's so I came to the conclusion that one of the reasons is it's because we like to brag about the our own weather experiences, and so that was it. But yeah, this is the season that there also I wrote a column before that where I talked about that there's really 20 different seasons in Wyoming. Wyoming doesn't have four, and of course they used to say the four seasons were almost winter, winter, still winter, and construction. But I contend there's 20 seasons, and most recently we've had sprinter, which is where you can't decide. And we in Lander, where I live, we had spring of deception, where it all of a sudden it's 70 degrees, and you think, man, we're past it, and then we get 15 inches of snow, and we're a little like Sheridan. It's the wind rarely blows in Lander, which is an anomaly for Wyoming. Yeah. Wyoming's the windiest state, and so anyway, it can get really cold really fast, and it can. In our place, we get 116 inches of snow a year, so I think that's a lot more than Sheridan gets. So it could be very wintry, but yeah, us old guys love to talk about the weather. Although I don't know why you're talking. You don't have much white in your beard, John. I mean, I grew this as my annual winter beard, and it's coming off because my wife complains, and she says I look like Santa Claus, and I'm. Actually,
I just trimmed it because I thought it was now that people can see me, Bill. I've 42 years in radio, so you can do the math. I'm getting there, and I for the first time ever, people can see me as I'm doing the show, and so I adjusted to that. I actually looked in the mirror and decided I had to give it a trim. Hey, I saw you were talking about the wind a little bit, and one of the best kept secrets, I think, in Wyoming is that Sheridan doesn't get the wind. We get wind, no question, but not like a lot of the state. And that's just basic geography, with us sitting down here in the Big Goose Valley and the bighorns to the west of us. So, what happens is the weather comes in and it dumps on the big top of the bighorns, and then it passes over Sheridan and dumps all over Gillette. So that and the same with the wind. So I think Sheridan, the weather here relative to a lot of places in the Rocky Mountain West is pretty special. So that's how it is in Lander, pretty close as well. Huh?
Yeah, very, very much so. And again, Wyoming is like the windiest state. I had my own airplane and flew for 30 years, John, and it was always interesting flying into Lander. You would be fighting the wind and the weather and the turbulence and until you're about 1,000 feet above the ground, maybe 800 feet, and then it would just calm and you just float in. But fighting it, that plane, bringing it in, you'd think, oh my God, this is going to be a real nail biter of a landing. And once you get down just at a certain level, you were just fine. And so it's funny. And as a pilot, you would always check the winds aloft, of course, and it'd be stunning. You'd be standing there in the calm at the airport and and the report would say winds aloft or 40 miles an hour, and you'd think, so you knew if you took off in that your fillings are gonna be shaken out of your teeth after about 30 seconds into the air.
Don't they call that the upslope? So I know, living in Denver for 32 years, I was more or less raised in Wheatland. Family moved to Sheridan in '79. But in Denver, I was there early enough to be at Stapleton Airport before DIA was built. But what they called it was the upslope as the wind comes into the Rocky Mountain West into the mountain ranges. That's got to be a challenge for pilots. I can imagine in most Wyoming communities, putting that thing down on the ground is sometimes a challenge.
Again, I without belaboring this, but I used to, with partners and with just my wife, we owned several small newspapers around the region, and so we would fly. Usually Cessna 182s, very nice four-seater plane with a relatively big engine, so you could fly over the mountains if you needed to. But it's but we would fly into Cody, which is just unbelievably windy and snarky winds. It just, and they're famous for having the wind halfway down the runway. You think you've landed, you're coasting along, and then wham, here comes this gust. And but I also we used to own a newspaper in Green River, and Green River doesn't have an official airport. What they have is they call it the it's a flying saucer landing place. It's the interstellar something, and it's on top of a hill, and it's a gravel runway, and you can land there. And if you own the newspaper in Green River, the airport in Rock Springs seems like it's about 15 miles east of Rock Springs. So if you're trying to save time by flying a plane, but if you're going to land 30 miles away from your destination, it's almost easier just to drive. But anyway, but they also had their own little airport, which they have their signs, and it's listed as a place for flying saucers to land if they come to Earth. And so anyway, I landed there several times in the gravel, but that was kind of a white knuckle experience.
That might be a road trip adventure for the wife and I.
Exactly. It's really pretty cool up there and great view. And but anyway, but there's no buildings, there's no anything. It's just this long runway, and it is a really, really long runway. So
well,
anyway.
the one of the earliest stories, so it's around about that time, you will remember when that I think it was a 707 that was headed to Sheridan landed in Buffalo. Do you remember that story?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah, covered that well, and
Buffalo International.
I think it was actually a 737.
Was it? Okay.
And a guy named Jim Hicks down in Buffalo, he was loaned the local newspaper, and they took his name. I can't think of the pilot's name, and they had let's say it was, let's say it was Bruce Jones or something. They'd have Bruce Jones days every year to celebrate that landing. I mean, and they actually had invited him, and he even came one year. It was really,
I know.
but,
I remember
but
them
yeah,
kind of made it a celebration, and they changed the name from
yeah,
Buffalo Airport to Buffalo International or Johnson County
yeah. And
International. I just
if you but if you grew up in Wheatland, you know all about wind. My gosh, those folks down there, that is a one windy town.
they're
And
a
I
heart.
love Wheatland. It's one of my favorite all-time Wyoming towns.
Oh,
But
you bet.
boy, that can be a little. That in fact, I I published a map back when I was in the publishing business, and it showed the windiest places in Wyoming, and that I-25 stretch,
Oh,
just west of or just east of Laramie Peak came in as the windiest,
well, Bill,
consistently windiest spot.
my family, we moved to Wheatland from Miami, Florida when I was 15, so 1976. So from Miami to Wheatland, and learned quickly because I went right away. Almost immediately, they put me to work out on the Medicine Bow Ranch Company, and then working in Slater on the in the wheat fields. And very quickly, I grew to, first of all, appreciate irrigation. Number
Yep.
one. Number two, the wind, and how, that's a topic of conversation for so many of us. And that's why your article, Bill Sniffen with Colorado State Daily, too hot, too cold, too windy. Why do old men talk about the weather so much? And that caught my attention. And as you could tell, we could go on. You and I could go on.
Yeah, we can. We probably ought to quit talking about the weather. I think there's only so many old folks out there, and we don't want that resounding sound of the joke always was that was the resounding sound of 10,000 radio knobs clicking off.
Yeah.
And you don't
Well,
want that sound.
in our defense, we do have a significant front coming through after temperatures in the 70s the last 3 or 4 days. So people will need to adjust, and people who are traveling now that the bears are coming out of hibernation in Yellowstone, there are people traveling through here who will get caught in this. I spoke earlier to Don Day about having been caught once in a whiteout snowstorm between Cheyenne and Laramie, up there on top at about 9,300 feet above sea level in August. And
Yes.
there was 25, 30 vehicles on, side of the road, some in the ditches, because nobody was prepared. And here in Wyoming, we like to think that we're prepared for that, and that's maybe part of the reason we talk about the weather so much.
Well, John, one of the things that WYDOT, Wyoming Department of Transportation, I've written about them a lot. They do really a good job, I think. But they put up these signboards all over the state now, and my biggest gripe with them is they won't put Wi-Fi in the rest areas, and I know why they don't do it. They don't want people congregating in the rest areas, but for safety reasons, I believe they should. But so as a result, it's very Wi-Fi is hard to get a lot of times driving along. But these signboards they have is a fantastic innovation because somebody in Cheyenne somebody in Lander will or let somebody somewhere will know, hey, there's a terrible wind over here. And boom, right there on that signboard, it comes terrible winds ahead. Be prepared, and so I give them credit for that. But well, John, I was thinking about my what I'm working on this week. I've got a column that you're not as old as I am by a long stretch. Last Friday was my 79th birthday, and man, I tell you, that's called long of tooth. There's no disguising that. But anyway, what I'm writing about is about when I have a storage building on my property, and I went out there a while back and I discovered my old newspaper editor library. And I was a newspaper editor in Wyoming from 1970, so that I've been in the state 55 years. and you have to have all these books and maps and uh, items that you use for reference, because you didn't have the internet, you didn't have computers. Heck, I did my initial typing on a typewriter, and
Sure.
that was a long, long time ago. But so as a result, over all those years, you have these reference books that you use and you rely on. Well, anyway, I'm the titling the column is like a visit with an old friend, and it was just stunning that I realized I hadn't been around these books and reference books for 8 or 9, 10 years, and I started going through them, and it was like being with an old friend because they were tattered. They had lines in them. They had dog ears. They were underlined. They were, uh, and I think I really realized I'm not the only one. Everybody who is a professional had their own little library of stuff, and that library is you don't use it. So whatever happened to it? A lot of people have went to the dump, or it's still at maybe you still have it in your home on a shelf or something. But anyway, to me, it was just great. And the one the item I put in there that I was one of the more valuable ones is Wyoming has a fantastic historian in Laramie named Phil Roberts, and he and his brothers.
I know the name.
Yeah, they put together the Wyoming Almanac, and it is an amazing book of just everything that ever happened in Wyoming. Well, from an editor's perspective, it was just a gold mine. You could, if you needed a column to write about, or you were wondering, okay, what was the worst mass shooting, or what was the worst coldest weather, or where was the highest wind, and it was just there. And so,
I'm going to
and
check
here,
into that myself. That sounds
yes, so
fascinating.
but they're out of print right now, and they were always going to print another one. But one of the brothers died, and Phil himself has had some health issues. I haven't talked to him lately, but I always thought, and I'm a publisher. I've published 6 books of my own, and 3 of them were coffee table books about Wyoming, and Phil helped me a ton on the last one. But I always thought, gosh, as a publisher, maybe I could help him on that. But then again, we all get busy, So
Well, listen, a plethora of experience and wisdom there. It's interesting because I had on a little bit earlier Andrew Rossi, who I'm going to guess he's probably in his 30s, mid 30s, somewhere in there. And then you said you're turning 79 next Friday, a week from today.
It was actually last Friday.
Oh, last Friday. Well, happy birthday late then, my friend. And listen, I'm doing a show every Saturday now. I just started. Last Saturday was my first 6A to 10A. Will you make me a promise to join me every once in a while so 2 old guys can talk about the weather and anything else that's going on?
I would be happy to do that. And again, as long as we don't hear that resounding sound of 10,000 radio knobs turning. But John, it's great to meet you. And of course, I'm an old guy that's I got a lot of time on my hands. But anyway, it's I got a lot to talk about. We can talk about everything. I was a statewide columnist for a long time, so
well, I'm following you on Cowboy State Daily. I'm a subscriber, and everybody else should be too. It really is becoming our newspaper in codes, because I'm still a guy that likes to spread out an ink-stained newspaper. If I have that kind of time, that's a good day to go completely through a newspaper. But I get most of my news digitally, like a lot of people do now, and Cowboy State Daily is a great source. And you're one of the columnists there, and you write like you talk. It sounds like listening to and it reads like I'm listening to a good friend. So I plan on staying in touch with you and hopefully inviting you on, and you'll join me Saturday mornings from 6 to 10. Your buddy Bags now on Cowboy State Daily Radio.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, sir. Thanks for joining me. You have a great weekend. We'll talk again soon. And again, happy birthday.
Okay, thanks, John.
Bye-bye. All right, what time is it? Okay, that took a little while. I enjoyed it. Let's see. 8:26. It's your buddy Bags, and that maybe I should introduce myself again because folks are tuning in this morning, and Jake's not here, Shireen's not here, that's for sure. That old adage, face for radio, does not apply to Shireen, and those of you that have been watching will likely agree. But anyway, I am an old radio guy. Many years I started here in Sheridan at KROE in 1981, I'll say. It was actually at the very, very end of 1980. I remember that, and I'm able to recall it because I was only on the air. I was doing a nighttime rock and roll show from 7 to midnight on the FM side of KROE. And the second or third night I was on the air, John Lennon was shot and killed. And boy, Bill would remember this, but I remember the old AP wire machine, you know, if you ever watch any old movies, and then it has an alarm on it, ding, ding, ding. And I went in there and tore the story off, and it had said John Lennon had been shot. And it was, and then they would say, wait, more details coming. And within a half hour, 45 minutes or so, the alarm went off again on the AP machine, and it said, John Lennon has been killed. And that was the beginning of my radio career. And part of what inspired me there was I had just more or less discovered the Beatles at the tender age of 21. And yeah, the Beatles have been around a long time, I know, but it wasn't my era of music. But the more I got into music, the more I realized the Beatles were, they're at the genesis of rock and roll. And so I started listening, and pretty soon I became enamored with and started collecting albums. I still have album covers that I've framed of the Beatles in one of the rooms right here in my house. But anyways, I had this fantasy at the time, I remember thinking that the Beatles would get back together and tour, and I would get to see them. And then when John Lennon was killed, that destroyed that dream, that fantasy, and it was devastating. But what happened is on the air, I organized a candlelight vigil here in Sheridan, the city park. We call it Kendrick Park. And a friend of mine had a pickup truck with a good stereo, good speakers, and he put the speakers out of the bed of the pickup truck, and I invited people to come and let's have a candlelight. Well, upwards, and again, memory from 1980 is pretty shaky, but I'm going to say 200 plus people showed up. And we walked behind that truck, played Beatles and John Lennon songs. And it was at that moment that I realized the impact that media had, and that when, and it was also a little scary, realized that when I was talking on the air, people were listening. So anyway, that was the beginnings. And then I went on Sheridan for a couple of years, then on to Laramie at KFBC KOWB, KCGY there, working also part-time with the Kirk County Sports Radio Network. Then on over to Cheyenne, went to work for KFBC and Q98, where our editor-in-chief, J.O., Jimmy Orr, we went by J.O. in the morning. Him and I did a radio show and did a lot of the stunts and shtick together. We developed a friendship then. And, of course, Jimmy went on to legitimacy, and I went on to more illegitimate rock and roll radio in Denver for many years, eventually growing up and going to work as an executive producer at KOA, then on into sales, then on into management, and then finally back on the air here in Sheridan at one of the radio stations here that's out of business now. That was about a year and a half ago that they went off the air. That was 98.3 The Peak. I did the midday show there. But that was the last time I was on the air in an old-fashioned broadcast mode. And now here I am. I'm doing the Saturday morning show, 6A to 10A, on a digital streaming format first time that people can see me in the studio while I'm working, and that's an adjustment, but I'm enjoying it. I did have a couple of issues with the technology this morning. Hopefully I've got that worked out, but I have a great lineup tomorrow. Interesting show. I have told people that wanted to listen that the show will be a little bit focused on lifestyles, sports, music, entertainment, events. I want to talk about what's going on at Cheyenne Frontier Days. I want to talk about our high school athletes. And so, in fact, I've got an interview lined up, not tomorrow, but soon, with the head coach, Jeff Lowry, of the Sheridan Bronx. The high school is just up the street from me here, who have either the third or fourth longest winning streak in the nation going on right now, somewhere 40-something, I can't remember what it is, and just won their fourth straight state championship, and they are like 7 out of the last 9 or 8 out of the last 10 or 11 state championships. They've got it going on here, both the sports programs and the academics, as well as theater and music here at Sheridan High School. So can't wait to have a conversation with him. And also tomorrow I have lined up the Chief of Police, Travis Koltiska, the Chief of Police here in Sheridan, to talk just about law enforcement in general, about the change of season with young people being out and about and people on motorcycles, and just wanted to have a conversation with him, and also to reinforce my support, my personal support for law enforcement of all kinds. So, all right, we're going to take a little break here. I do have our news director, Wendy Kaur, lined up to chit-chat with. I'm curious about what she wants to talk about. She's got her finger on the pulse, that's for sure. So bear with me here. We're going to do a little break and come back, and I got to get to it. It is the 8:43 break, so I'll do that and be back shortly here.
Who can you turn to for news you can trust? Your local TV and radio broadcasters. You trust us to keep you safe during times of crisis and to deliver the weather, sports, and entertainment you rely on every day. We bring you the facts you need to make decisions that matter. And as misinformation floods social media, you can trust your local stations to deliver the truth. Text TV to 52886 and tell Congress you rely on your local stations for trusted news.
You handle the healthcare, we'll handle the marketing. In need of a spark for marketing your medical practice? Loom Studio provides creative and strategic healthcare marketing that illuminates the path to bigger and better experiences for your business and your patients. We specialize in branding and design, social media, website design, SEO and SEM, not to mention content creation, public and media relations, and marketing metrics to ensure you're getting results. If you're looking to increase your patient engagement and retention, enhance your community impact, and streamline your marketing efforts, our team is ready to help you achieve your goals. Contact us today and learn more at loomstudio.com.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Cowboy. Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network. Wyoming is a big state. There's so much ground to cover, so many stories to tell. But the Cowboy State Daily News team is up to the challenge. I'm Wendy Kaur, host of Cowboy State Daily Video News. Whether it's politics in Cheyenne, energy issues in the Powder River Basin, or grizzlies in Yellowstone, our talented crew of experienced journalists are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. What's the best restaurant in Du Bois? Renee Jean checks it out. What's the most recent Supreme Court decision mean into our everyday lives. Claire McFarland explains. How is the upcoming elk hunting season shaping up? Mark Hines lets us know. Every day, I talk to the reporters who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites, and in our daily newscast, I bring you those stories. Tune into the Cowboy State Daily video newscast every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com.
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this beautiful spring weather we've had this week because change is in the air. We're going to see changes early today out in western Wyoming where some showers developed overnight, and there's going to be a little bit of rain and snow shower activity in the west early in the day today. The main event, though, starts tonight. We're going to see a Pacific wave come through and areas of rain will develop, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, especially in the central and eastern parts of Wyoming. And overnight tonight into Saturday morning, that wave could bring a good shot of moisture. Mainly rain on the plains, maybe mixing with snow down to 6,000 feet. We do need to watch out for the higher elevations of Interstate 80, especially between Laramie and Cheyenne and Laramie and Rawlins. There could be some travel concerns there late tonight and tomorrow morning. Another wave will come through, bringing another shot of rain and snow to parts of Wyoming as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Now, these two systems will affect all of Wyoming with some precipitation, much colder temperatures, and some travel hazards, especially over the mountain passes. So be prepared for change this weekend.
All right, it's your buddy Bags on Cowboy State Daily Radio. It is 8:38 in the morning on a Friday. Hey, it's the weekend. Cheer up. Weekend's coming. Okay, although we got some weather on the way. Thanks, Don Day, for perpetuating that springtime tease we get here in the Rocky Mountain West. Right now it's 53 degrees in Sheridan. It's partly cloudy. It looks like a little snow up on top of the Bighorns. Blacktooth Peak, Cloud Peak, Bighorn Peak, all of those are 13,000 plus peaks in this area. A lot of snow. See, whenever I touch this thing is going to go off. It's very touchy. But I can fade it out and get it out of your way. All right. Well, I was kind of introducing myself. I know I did that a little bit last week on my first Saturday show. But I did want to, let you know who I am and that I'm going to be doing a regular Saturday show, 6A to 10A here on Cowboy State Daily Radio. It certainly gives here. Let me see if I can bring this up on here. Look at this. Bam. So you can call in on this number. That's the 307-278-9598. I realize that not everybody is watching the stream. They're just listening. But I do have a splashed phone number, text number up on there right now at 307-278-9598. I just want to emphasize the fact that I'm able to bring that up. That's progress, people, with this technology. New to me. But also there's a designated email address for you to communicate with me. It's wyomingbags307@gmail.com. That's wyomingbags307, and bags has two G's and an S, at gmail.com, wyomingbags307@gmail.com, or text or call 307-278-9598. I'm here in the substitute role for Jake and Shireen. I think Shireen's back on Monday. Jake's got some well-deserved time off, and I think he's someplace with sunshine. And I've seen Jake, so all I can do is hope and pray that he's invested in some minimum of 50 SPF sunscreen. And he's got somebody standing there with a tray and a pina colada or some foo-foo drink with an umbrella over it. And if you're watching this show, Jake, I'm glad you're having a good time. And just so you know, we have snow coming. So, whatever. All right. Well, and again, John Baggett, I'm doing a show from my home here in Sheridan, Wyoming. And I do have lined up here in a few minutes. I got to watch my clock. I've had a tendency to run over because I'm not a great multitasker. Never have been. Ask my wife. Yeah, I'm married. 37 years coming up here in June. Beautiful Deb. I call her Deborah when she's in trouble. Just kidding. But Deb and I, 37 years, we have 2 sons, and they're both grown-ass men, right? One is 35, just turned 35, and the other one is 32. And one's married, the other one's got a girlfriend. One has a cat, and one has a dog, and they are about as different as 2 human beings can be, right? One is the oldest one, Joseph, is Captain Baggett. He is a Ranger Tabbed Airborne Jump Master Commander. He commands a company of 82nd Airborne troops out of Fort Bragg, which was Fort Liberty, which was Fort Bragg. That's going to be a topic for us one of these days. And but anyway, he is literally kicking indoors and doing that now. I can't tell you where he is or what exactly he's doing right now. But I do want to get him on maybe to give a little feedback on the state of recruitment in the Army. Again, he's a captain. He got his captain bars when he was deployed in the whole Afghanistan debacle. He was involved in that, but he was in Qatar when he got his captain's bars. Very proud of him. He got Ranger tabbed about a year ago. No, excuse me, 6 years ago. Sorry. And then he went on to lead a platoon, a scout platoon, and then now finally a commander's role with an airborne unit. And anyway, very proud of him. He went to the University of Wyoming, graduated in 4 years, had a real life, a real job, girlfriend, dog, house, and called me up one day at 25 years old and said he wanted to serve his country. And of course, I didn't know what that meant. I don't have a military background. And he ended up going through officer candidacy school at 26 years old. And yeah, got that done, and on to, I think it was, I can't remember what's next. It may have been infantry training and then Ranger School or vice versa, and then eventually as a commander now at Fort Bragg. So that's him. My younger son is an actor. He is he teaches Shakespeare, and he teaches Shakespeare in the school system in the Netherlands, Holland, right? And he met a Dutch gal, beautiful Dutch woman, while he was in college in Chicago at Loyola University. And they eventually got married and eventually moved to the Netherlands, Amsterdam at first. They're in The Hague now. And he teaches improv at in the school system there, improv and Shakespeare. He directs and is the founder of a Shakespeare company in Holland, and I think that's in Amsterdam at an English-speaking theater. And he's a musician, used to be in a great band. I thought they could have made it, called Cluster Folk. They're defunct now, but they were really good. And I think there is a LP out there somewhere if you Googled it, Cluster Folk. But he's very happy living over there. They don't get back here enough as far as I'm concerned, and we don't get over there enough as far as I'm concerned as well. So that's me. I'm a married man with 2 sons who couldn't get further away from me and my wife in Wyoming. But we are very close. I love them dearly. They're so different in every way, shape, and form, politically, interest-wise. But interesting enough, they have the same sense of humor, if you can believe that. Yeah, we're all... me and my boys are just kind of goofy fart joke humor guys. So, all right. Well, hey, I did it. I got the news director here at Cowboy State Daily. It's screen share time. Oh, no, Zoom room time. There we go. Yeah, Wendy, you're crossing your fingers. I could see it. That I'd get there. But,
awesome.
I did. I just finished kind of introducing myself to Jake's audience and try to drag them over to my show on Saturday mornings from 6 to 10. But
Absolutely.
you are
What else do people have to do on Saturday mornings, right?
Oh, hey, listen, and my plan is to make it fun and kind of lighten up the mood a little bit from a typical, no offense, news director, but from a typical newsy weekday show. So events,
as you should.
Maybe some comedy. I have some friends who are actual real life stand-up comedians. I had one scheduled this morning, and I don't know if you were there and watched me botch that 6 o'clock hour.
No.
But it was monumental.
Dang it. Well, it was 6 o'clock. The people who are watching now weren't watching at 6 o'clock.
They should have been on their way to work or still in bed and not paying attention to me.
I still in bed part. Yes.
I'm counting on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? If you're gonna mess up, 6 o'clock in the morning on a Friday is a good time to do it.
You bet. Well, listen, there's so much going on that I always have a difficult time trying to narrow it down to what you and I wanted to talk about. So is there something in particular that you think our audience would want to hear a little bit more about?
Well, I'm going to plug actually my podcast for tomorrow. That's the thing. I do the newscast on Monday through Friday, which for me, we put it together the night before. So Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday night. Those are my work nights. But in there, I'm also getting together with people to schedule podcasts and to record podcasts. And this one this week is going to be really interesting. It's a little different because, John, I don't know, and hopefully the listeners will remember, there was a few weeks ago, reporter Renee Jean, did a feature about a medieval home that was built down by Cheyenne. It's a monstrous 3-story, almost 4-story medieval house that was made with a really unique construction by taking a crooked tree, splitting it in half, and then those halves create the arch that create the support of that of the house. And so Jimmy Orr, our editor, and everybody else was saying, we got to get Cooning Meadowcroft on the show. So that's what I did. And so he took his phone and he took us around his house and showed us the different construction methods that he used. And I mean, the decor in there, it goes straight back to, I think, 14th century. But it's just amazing what he's done with this place. He built it. It's taken him 23 years to build. He started on his own. Now he's married with 3 children, and they're all part of the process as well. So
is that something we could look at? Is it? Will you have it posted somewhere?
Yes. Yep. So it'll be the link to it will be posted late tonight. It'll be in tomorrow morning's newsletter. So anybody can get on cowboystatedaily.com and watch my interview with him, talking about where he got his inspiration and all of these things, and kind of taking a tour of this amazing, amazing medieval house with a throwback, almost extinct method of building a house. So way too fun.
I'll check out those photos. That sounds very interesting to me.
Yes.
Was there another story or a feature that you're going to focus on that you wanted to share?
No, that's my podcast for tomorrow. It's going to be it's about a 40-minute podcast, I think. So people would be able to do that, but I would definitely encourage people to check out all the previous episodes of the Roundup. I mean, I've been doing this for a year and a half, and the people that I've been able to talk to are just absolutely fascinating, genius people, literally hiding in plain sight in the small towns of Wyoming. Genius authors and artists, and I mean, just the people who make things happen.
And we have
in
some
this.
of them on our team. I had a
Yes,
great
we
conversation with Bill Sniffen just a little while
Oh.
ago, and
Yep.
it was, he just turned 79. He said that on the air, so I'm not,
Yeah,
outing him.
I think he owns it. I think he owns
it,
his age.
But
yes.
because of that, he's got those experiences and that wisdom. You could hear it. And he wrote an article in Cowboy State Daily. You call it a newsletter. I was telling people it's basically a digital newspaper.
It is very much so. Mm-hmm.
And I've been reading that for a long time now. But of course, I didn't know a lot of our columnists and reporters. Getting to know them now.
That's right. Isn't that fun?
It's fun.
I'm so privileged. Part of my job is to talk to each and every one of them. And it's just, I have nothing but my respect for people like Claire McFarland and Jen Coker and Leo Wolfson and Mark Hines. I mean, it just goes up and up. And
I've got Leo coming on later this morning. And I'm hoping Claire will, but I think Claire got some time off, or she's on assignment or something. Is she available, do you think?
I don't know. I'll find. I know that she is booked today. She's got a whole lineup. I left our team Zoom meeting, so every morning at 8:30 we have a team Zoom that basically puts us all together face to face virtually. And we share ideas and tell everybody what our stories are that we're working on. And she's got a long list.
Well, I think we had our meeting last Monday, I think.
Yes, we did.
And I remember slightly in there somewhere that she had something going on. But if you could shoot her, if she has 5 minutes, I just want to, because today, for me, it's been kind of my introduction of our
Absolutely.
team.
I'll text her. I'll text her.
And so I have, if she could do after the 9:26 break, have her on.
Yeah.
We can
I'll message her right now.
Tell her anything that she wants to talk about. John wants to hear about it. But if she can't, no worries.
I will do that. I tell you, one of the things that Leo is doing this week, and I know you'll talk to him about it, but of course he was at Al Simpson's service at the Capitol yesterday. And Al's continued, the people paying their respects to Al continues. He's lying in state still today at the Capitol. Tonight I think they'll move his body tonight. There'll be a memorial service at Arena Auditorium in Laramie tomorrow. I'm hoping my daughter will go to that 'cause she's down in Laramie. And she grew up with Al. Yeah, that's, if you lived in Cody, you grew up with Al. That's just the way it was. And so I'm trying to kind of wrap my mind around the idea of a world without Al in it, and it hasn't sunk in yet.
Well, I told my Al Simpson story, coincidentally, that involves the Arena Auditorium not long after it opened up.
Really?
He and Governor Hirschler, Dick Cheney, I think, and again, this is like 1986, I believe, and who'd I miss? Kurt Gowdy.
Wow.
We're all at a game. I was given the job, of escorting James Brown. Yes, that James Brown, the NFL Today host. We were both young, and they had sent him to Laramie. He drew the short straw because that was when the Pokes were really good. And Fennis Dembo was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
I remember that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so they were going to televise, and I can't remember, the details of who they were going to play next. So CBS sent the young James Brown to research the Wyoming Cowboys. And for whatever reason, everybody else was busy. I drew the responsibility of escorting James Brown, the young James Brown, just around Laramie, giving him tips, 7,200 feet above sea level, the high plains, and that's where Centennial is, and there you go that way to Sarah. Anyway, that was my role, and I was driving him around, and then we end up eventually at the arena auditorium for the game, and we're at, press row there, and not 10 feet, 12 feet behind us is that lineup. It's Al Simpson, Governor Hirschler. So the senator, I think, again, Pete Simpson, Al's brother, I believe he was there. I'm not sure that. But Dick Cheney, and who at the time, I believe, was our lone representative or congressman, and then Kurt Gowdy himself. And so they were rowdy. I'm checking the time here. They were super rowdy. I mean, and I'll just say that. They were being Wyoming fans, right?
And Wyoming fans get super rowdy for sure.
Yes, they do, and at all levels. And so then they're being rowdy, and James Brown goes, "Who are those guys?" And I turned around and said, "That's our senator, that's our governor, that's our representative, and that's Kurt Gowdy." Who, even James Brown knew who Kurt Gowdy was in our business, right? And he was impressed, to say the least. And so right after that game, I can't remember if it was halftime or after the game, but I just walked over and got to shake every one of their hands and say, hello. Of course, Kurt Gowdy at the time, I was actually kind of working part-time doing some production for his network.
Oh, so awesome.
I had met him. There's my Al Simpson story. He was always so kind and approachable, and did not put on airs. I call it the Wyoming way.
He was the Wyoming way.
You betcha. Well, hey, so on Saturdays, when you probably want some time off, if there's something going on, would you do me a favor? Would you join me every now and then, especially if it's breaking news and hard stuff? Yes, anytime, and you probably would anyway. But something fun, something entertainment. Somebody's going to go to Frontier Days. Somebody's doing stand-up comedy somewhere, sports related. Would you just let me know and join me?
I'll give you a heads up if I can. Yeah.
You bet. It would enhance my little programming. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Very good.
All right.
Well, I hope you're having fun doing this.
I am now.
You haven't been behind a radio mic for a little while.
Year and a half since my rock and roll show. But remember, my rock and roll show had, I could put a 7-minute song on.
That's right.
And not say anything for a while and get up and go anywhere I wanted for a little bit anyway. So it's been an adjustment. And you can see I was popping little mints here as my out of shape voice went.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Understood. Right. Well, we're glad you're with us, John. You're a great addition to the Cowboy State Daily team.
And it is news director. Is there an official title? What do you call
broadcast media director? Simply because I'm not the news director. I mean, the news comes from all of our reporters and, the editor, but I would be broadcast media. So podcasts and news, although I don't cover the radio show. So that was just a title we got before Jake decided that he was going to do a radio show. Yes. So I just kept the title.
Well, good, because now it gives me an opportunity to talk to people on Saturday mornings. So
we're glad you're doing it. That's
Thanks,
great,
Wendy.
John.
I look forward to our next conversation. You have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye. Okay, well, let's go to our newscast. That's funny, because Wendy's up next here as we go to the news. And, we'll do that. We'll do the weather, and we'll be back here for the last hour of the Friday edition of Cowboy State Daily Radio with your buddy Bags, John Baggett, substituting for Jake Nichols.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Friday, March 28th. I'm Wendy Core, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show. Friday, March 28th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. An endorsement from President Donald Trump holds a lot of weight in the Cowboy State, which has supported Trump's bids for president with a larger margin than any other state for 3 elections in a row. On Wednesday night, Trump endorsed U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis's 2026 re-election bid. Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson reports that Lummis expressed gratitude for Trump's endorsement.
Trump commended her work on cryptocurrency issues and said that she is definitely an American first type senator that would be great to re-elect in Wyoming. Lummis was particularly happy, obviously, to get Trump's endorsement. She said that Powder River let her buck. Thank you, President Trump. I will never stop fighting for Wyoming. Its people are proud patriots, freedom maximalists, and lovers of liberty. It is truly the last best place on earth.
Despite a few rankles with the Wyoming Republican Party, Lummis has enjoyed a relatively high level of popularity during her time in office. Once it became clear that President Donald Trump was likely to get the Republican nomination in his bid for re-election, Lummis quickly aligned with him and since that time has consistently supported his efforts. Well, it's cold comfort for the 28 coal mine workers laid off last week by Kemmerer Operations LLC, but Wyoming coal industry watchers see evidence of an uptick in coal production and sales to electric utilities. The job losses equal around 13% of the mine's workforce and the reduction, according to Cowboy State Daily's David Madison, but there are signs that coal production could increase in Wyoming and elsewhere.
We had 28 people laid off in Kemmerer, which they're hoping to have those employees absorbed in some of the other natural resource extraction industries around that area, and there certainly is a lot going on. At the same time, folks are losing their job. Things are looking up as far as future coal orders go. So I spoke to someone at the Wyoming Mining Association, and they said, hey, contracts are coming in right now. Power plants are purchasing Wyoming coal.
The Kemmerer Operations mine produced 2.4 million tons of coal in 2024 with a staff of 215 workers. Wyoming will lose around $40 million in federal COVID-era grants that it's used to track infectious diseases, provide immunizations, and fight substance abuse addiction as part of the cuts made by President Donald Trump's administration on Wednesday. The Wyoming Department of Health confirmed to Cowboy State Daily's Leah Wolfson that the state expects to lose more than $39 million in grant funding for its public health division and nearly $1 million for its behavioral health division.
I spoke to Representative Rachel Rodriguez-Williams, who is the chairman of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus and also the chair of the House Health, Labor, and Social Services Committee. She supports the cuts, saying that she applauds President Trump's mission to properly allocate taxpayer dollars and a willingness to make tough decisions. I spoke to health advocacy group Better Wyoming, who slammed the news in a statement provided to Cowboy State Daily.
Wednesday's cuts are part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services move to cancel around $12 billion in federal grants to states that were allocated this money during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Do you know it's illegal to dig or excavate without knowing what's below? This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. We will be hosting workshops around the state to educate homeowners, realtors, landscapers, underground facility owners, and excavators on the state law, industry best practices when it comes to planting a tree, building a fence, or any other excavation project you have planned. Join us for a free breakfast, get your questions answered, and learn how One Call of Wyoming is here to help. Go to onecallofwyoming.com and register today.
Well, Bighorn Basin Towing in Cody is planning one of its most challenging recoveries. A battered pickup is precariously perched on a cliff face near Wapiti, and they're hoping to recover it intact. The irony is the truck belongs to one of the business's co-workers. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi spoke to Eric Lopez, who said he never thought one of his most challenging recoveries would be for his own vehicle.
He drives his truck, Old Blue, back home, parks it, and goes inside to get some rest. That night, the winds pick up in Cody, as they often do, and they were strong enough to roll the truck down the cliff, off the cliff, and get it wedged into a crevice and amongst some giant tooth-shaped rocks. And the only explanation that Eric Lopez, the co-owner, has is that he must have forgotten to put on the parking brake when he parked it, and the winds were strong enough to push this Ford F-250 up and over a cliff.
Although the truck crumpled in the fall, the Bighorn Basin Towing crew believes Old Blue could be salvageable. They won't know until it goes. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. There was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Learn more at helpheart.org.
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this beautiful spring weather we've had this week because change is in the air. We're going to see changes early today out in western Wyoming where some showers developed overnight, and there's going to be a little bit of rain and snow shower activity in the west early in the day today. The main event, though, starts tonight. We're going to see a Pacific wave come through and areas of rain will develop, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, especially in the central and eastern parts of Wyoming. And overnight tonight, into Saturday morning, that wave could bring a good shot of moisture. Mainly rain on the plains, maybe mixing with snow down to 6,000 feet. We do need to watch out for the higher elevations of Interstate 80, especially between Laramie and Cheyenne and Laramie and Rawlins. There could be some travel concerns there late tonight and tomorrow morning. Another wave will come through, bringing another shot of rain and snow to parts of Wyoming as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Now, these two systems will affect all of Wyoming with some precipitation, much colder temperatures, and some travel hazards, especially over the mountain passes. So be prepared for change this weekend.
Hey, Leo, how are you?
Hey, good, John. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. It is 9:08 on a Friday. Your buddy Bags, John Baggett, substituting host for Jake Nichols on vacation, and Shireen, who's got the day off, some personal business to take care of. So they are down the bench, Leo. They are in the bullpen for sure, and they've used up all their good pitchers.
Did they call you up from Tulsa throwing the big leagues?
Yeah, not even AAA, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know if you were listening early on, but you could tell that there was somebody new on the mound here. But it's been an adventure. It's been a lot of fun too. Met a lot of our team today, Leo. This is Leo Wolfson. Leo, you're one of the columnists, reporters. Yeah, what is your title, your role?
Yeah, so I'm covering state politics in Wyoming. That's kind of my main beat. That involves just covering our Wyoming legislature, our congressional delegation, and just, if there's any national political stories that have a Wyoming impact or a Wyoming connection, definitely writing those as well. So yeah, that's kind of generally what I've been doing. I've been in this role since spring of 2022, so we're coming up on 3 years now, and it's been a very good experience. Wyoming is a very interesting political state.
You bet. I have been describing to my friends when I've been telling them what I'm doing now, that Cowboy State Daily, I describe it as a digital newspaper. Some people have described it as a newsletter. But if, and whoever's listening that's or watching is not subscribed, you need to do that because, and just, all things being equal, I think it contains some of the best writers, columnists, news people that we have to offer here in Wyoming and other places. So I've been following you for quite a while because I've been getting the newspaper, the digital newspaper, the newsletter for quite a while. Just joined the team a week ago, but you write some great stuff. I can tell there's experience there. I really love the fact that your primary focus is here in the Cowboy state. And Leo, there really hasn't been a bigger story, in my opinion, than the passing of Al Simpson. Now, of course, I'm biased, and I've been here. My family's been here since 1976. So Al Simpson was a very, very big part of my growing up here, my discovering politics, and so when he passed, I wasn't surprised. Maybe some were, at the level of response that people have had to that. Gosh, he was a special person. That folksiness, I call it the Wyoming way. He had a Wyoming way about him. And I just finished telling a story to Wendy, so I'll spare you, about one of the first times I ever met him in person when I was doing radio in Cheyenne, or no, at the time, Laramie. So, but anyway, his lying in state, of course, I saw they call it lying in honor, and I like that, and he deserves that. But he was lying in state yesterday, and and you covered that. So what was that like?
Yeah, thank you, John. It was a remarkable event. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I don't know if I've ever actually personally attended one of these events, but yeah, they brought in his casket from the north end of the Capitol complex, and a military procession walked it in. And then the Simpson family was waiting for it on the steps of the Capitol. They all went inside into the rotunda. It was a short ceremony, but I think it was impactful. And sometimes, and this is something that applies to public speakers that I deal with in politics, sometimes short and sweet is better, and you get your point across more impactfully than a long, drawn-out type thing, and that's what this was. Wyoming Supreme Court Justice Kate Fox gave a short speech that I thought was right to the heart of who Al Simpson was. You're absolutely right. He was very much of the Wyoming culture, kind of a folksy style that a lot of people really connected with. And, he was a U.S. Senator of high ranking, but he never let you know it. He never put on airs as far as who he would speak to. He had an incredible memory for people's names and at least their faces. Every single time I called him, I think he at least called me back, and he didn't have to do that. I am not that big of a deal for a former U.S. Senator, and I really appreciated the conversations I had with him. Just an incredible wit, incredible way of connecting people and breaking down people as far as them putting up their guards against trying to work with him on various issues. He just had a way with words and a way with humans that was kind of unmatched.
Yes.
And that was kind of the theme of the ceremony on Thursday. About 100 people there were in attendance. And then the Simpson family kind of gathered around his casket at the end and sang a song that's kind of a family tradition type song. So, there's going to be a number of events honoring him over the next few days. There'll be a de-recession, I think it's called. They're going to be removing the casket at 2 p.m. today, so there will be a ceremony for that. And then they're honoring him at the University of Wyoming in Laramie tomorrow. And then on Monday, finally, will be the service, the church service, basically more of the traditional funeral, if you will. I'll be covering that in person there in Cody, and that's the final event. So this is kind of the first of a few different things going on, and I think at the end of it, I think we'll definitely feel like he was well honored after all of this.
Absolutely. I was in Cody the day he passed on business, and the wife and I went out, had dinner, and we got to be around some people, and it was the topic of conversation. And what I think was cool is that you get a politician, you will get a gambit of opinions on somebody that's in politics. Sure, you bet. But not one negative comment, and in fact, some genuine emotion from some folks, and not necessarily, like old farts like me that go way back to when he was the senator from Wyoming, but just people who understand probably Cody more than most places, his hometown. But there was genuine emotion in there, and we all kind of feel like we lost an advocate for Wyoming. You and I both can remember when something would happen. Let me make this comparison. Do you know who I'm talking about when I talk about Senator Kennedy from Louisiana? The
Yes.
current Senator Kennedy
Yes.
from
Yep.
Louisiana. He has that folksiness about him, that down home, a very, I guess folksy is the right word, way about him. And I just love hearing him talk. Even when he says things that I don't agree with, I just love the way he puts it. Well, guess what? If you didn't know or weren't around when Alan Simpson was the go-to guy for the Republican Party, that's kind of what he was like, with a Wyoming sense of humor, a Wyoming delivery, and I think a lot of people that remember him could relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was unmatched. There was really no one like him. And even speaking to people who, were his colleagues during that time, even then, he wasn't just a politician of yesteryear. He was even, unique in his time. I think it was really the best way to describe him. I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to see anyone quite like him again in Wyoming.
Well, and I had the privilege to being here in Sheridan. My family's been moved to Sheridan in '79. Had the privilege of meeting Senator Wallop as well, and he was very approachable, very cordial and accommodating, and so forth. So, and at one time, that was our team, Senator Wallop and Senator Al Simpson, and they were formidable. I wouldn't say that, and I know the family here well, and very, very appreciate what Senator Wallop brought to the table as well. But they kind of balanced each other out, with one a little bit more serious. Although Malcolm Wallop had a wonderful sense of humor, he did, but it was much more subtle. But when you put those two together in a room, first of all, it oozed with credibility, number one. And then number two, it could be entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, politics is always evolving, and, good things could be said about our delegation today. Just kind of, they're very different in certain ways for sure. But yeah, I love learning about the old years of our delegation. I did a story on the last Democratic congressman, Congress member that Wyoming had. The name is escaping me as we speak.
What era are we?
This would have been the 1970s. I apologize for anyone who's offended that I can't remember it off the time.
I remember Governor Hirschler. I remember.
Yeah, for Tino Roncalio.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes. So I did a story on him about a year ago, and it was amazing learning about his life and just who he was. The last Democrat to represent Wyoming in Congress.
Sure.
It's just I don't think a lot of people in Wyoming know about today, and it was fascinating, kind of diving back into that. All the old fogies, if you will, of Wyoming politics certainly did remember him, and they were bringing up lots of stories. But it was just kind of a simpler time in politics, I guess is the best way I could describe it. I mean, he probably absolutely would be considered a Republican by today's standards.
Right.
And I think he was, even though he was a Democrat, for whatever that's worth, however you stand, he absolutely did represent Wyoming pretty darn well as far as advocating for the state's
Governor
energy
Hirschler
industry.
was a Democrat.
So I think
Go ahead, sorry.
It just kind of speaks to a more bipartisan time in politics, where I just feel like party labels are so important to these days, and people are just judging people so much off those labels. I think people like Simpson and Roncalio and Hirschler really kind of set an example of, that bipartisanship is possible, and to get past those party labels, I think there's still a worthy goal.
You bet. It was at a time when we were new to Wyoming. And I guess I was somewhat surprised when we got here to find out that our governor and one of our senators was a Democrat. But since then, as you said, it gets a little bit tougher for somebody to be in the other party, the other side of the aisle, and work with. But it does happen, and I keep praying that it happens more, that we get back to a better and a more respectful era than we are in right now. So, listen, Leo, I'm doing a show on Saturdays too, buddy. That's going to be my regular show, 6A to 10A. And I would just love for you, as you discover things going on that I should be focused on. I do want to maybe lighten it up a little bit on Saturdays, where I don't focus as much on hard news, but I want to do lifestyles, entertainment, concerts, who's in town, who's doing what, that kind of thing. But I absolutely will, as it is the relevant story of the day. When it is politics or it is news or something big happens, we certainly will focus on it. And having you to bring some credibility to this show of mine, if you wouldn't let me know and come on and jump on with me, and we'll talk about it here on Cowboy State Daily Radio, Saturday's version. Would you do that for me?
I'd be happy. Yeah, absolutely, John. That'd be great. I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, man. We'll get there. It can only get better. All right. Well, take care. You have a great weekend, and I don't know where you're going to be, but we got some snow coming.
Yeah, so actually, on Sunday afternoon, I'm driving up to Cody for that service. So yes. I'm hoping the weather isn't too heinous for this 6-hour drive I've got waiting for me.
Well, are you going to come up through Sheridan?
No, I'll be going up through Casper, and then that dreaded Shoshone to Casper route, and then up through Thermop over to Cody. Yeah. So
I would just me, but I'm biased. I think the Sheridan over to Ranchester and up Highway 14 is the prettiest way to get to Cody, Wyoming. I'll tell you that.
I would agree. I think it's significantly farther for me though, because otherwise I wholeheartedly agree with that.
All right. Well, if you're ever in this neck of the woods, I'd love to either sit with you for a coffee or on a bar stool, and we'll fix everything.
That sounds good.
Solve some problems. All right, that's Leo Wolfson, one of our columnist reporters for Cowboy State Daily. Appreciate him coming on with me on Cowboy State Daily Radio on the Friday edition. As I mentioned, Jake is on vacation, and Shireen had the day off, so they put the Saturday host on. That's me. With his cough button, and sparing you that in your ear. I do have a call and text line into the studio. Getting it up there so I can see it is a challenge, but you can, and if you want to comment on the show or me, mercy, please. A little bit of mercy would be appreciated. 307-278-9598 is the call-in or text line. And then we do have a designated email address at wyomingbags307@gmail.com. So wyomingbags307, which is bags with 2 G's and an S, at gmail.com. We can communicate that way. And I will be looking at the emails and texts when we get off the air here in a little while. I do have on her way for a chit chat with me in a little bit, Claire, another one of our great news people here at Cowboy State Daily. Pretty impressed with the team that Jimmy Orr, somebody who I kind of grew up in radio with, pretty impressed what he's put together here, him and the rest of the crew at Cowboy State Daily. Great news. We've got the best weather guy in the Rocky Mountain region, and Don Day, filling us in. In fact, we probably should do a weather forecast since we do have weather coming in. So stay with me. We'll be back with your buddy Bags on Cowboy State Daily Radio here on a Friday.
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this beautiful spring weather we've had this week, because changes in the air. We're going to see changes early today out in western Wyoming, where some showers developed overnight, and there's going to be A little bit of rain and snow shower activity in the west early in the day today. The main event, though, starts tonight. We're going to see a Pacific wave come through, and areas of rain will develop, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, especially in the central and eastern parts of Wyoming. And overnight tonight into Saturday morning, that wave could bring a good shot of moisture. Mainly rain on the plains, maybe mixing with snow down to 6,000 feet. We do need to watch out for the higher elevations of Interstate 80, especially between Laramie and Cheyenne and Laramie and Rollins. There could be some travel concerns there late tonight and tomorrow morning. Another wave will come through, bringing another shot of rain and snow to parts of Wyoming as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Now, these two systems will affect all of Wyoming, with some precipitation, much colder temperatures, and some travel hazards, especially over the mountain passes. So be prepared for change this weekend.
Thank you, Don Day. It's 52 degrees here in Sheridan, and we've got sunny skies right now. And as he mentioned, we have some weather on its way in. It looks like it's not going to get here until sometime late this afternoon or early evening. So the big Rocky Mountain spring tease happening here. So yeah, let me get back here. I do want to bring up Claire is one of our news people here. I got to admit her in here as I get through my my learning curve. Yeah, hi Claire. Claire, can you hear me? All right, I'm going to bring you up here on the screen as well. So thanks for joining me here on a Friday. I know that you had some time off, and yet you very graciously decided to come on with me this morning. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying meeting our great news team and the rest of the team here at Cowboy State Daily. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Well, it's been kind of interesting morning. I had Leo on a little earlier. We had a great chat about Senator Simpson's funeral, and he's lying in state today. And earlier today, I had did a story on Tom Lubnow. Is that how Tom pronounces his name?
I think it's Lubnow.
Lubnow. Tom did a story on rage baiting, and it's somewhat similar or equivalent to doom scrolling. You've heard of that too as well?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I can relate to the doom scrolling, and I somewhat relate to rage baiting, which is, from what I understand, or at least how Tom described it, it's going from one differing opinion to another, just to get angry on purpose. Do you ever run into that, or that doom scrolling? Is that something that you can relate to?
I'm inoculated because being in news and everyone's commenting on your story and misinterpreting your intentions and arguing with each other and picking fights over minor parts of the story or clinging to one thing. And it's just like you watch enough of this like Coliseum clash and you kind of distance yourself from any, I report on some serious emotional stuff, especially pertaining to crime victims, but you do, especially with political stuff, after watching the circus for a while, you learn to like distance yourself. So I don't really get that huffy about anything I see online because I spend so much time watching people react. I'm like, I don't want to be in that.
And I'm mellowing in my old age. I can honestly say that, I'll argue with anybody face to face. You bet. I want to see your reaction. I want you to see mine. I want you maybe to kind of see my heart. And even though we're differing in opinion on a topic, but I want them to see that there's no hate involved, and that usually 9 times out of 10, I have respect for whoever it is that old adage that a fool that argues with a fool is a fool. And so I try to avoid that. But if I am arguing, I'll say discussing politics or a news story from a different perspective, I probably wouldn't be arguing with that person anyway if I didn't see them as having some level of credibility.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Why would you engage with someone if you don't value their opinion? If you value their opinion, it's like, okay, engage with me and you'll refine me and I'll refine you. But if you don't, the last troll that I lashed out at, I'm now friends with. I haven't lashed out in a year and a half now at any troll. But there's this guy, his name's Mike Crampner, and he used to troll so hard, especially our columnist. One time I lashed out at him, "What's your problem?" And I felt terrible because it's unprofessional for me to be lashing out, and I apologized to him, and he mentioned like something about I don't remember. It was something nostalgic about paper presses, and he lets it drop that he was the longtime press attorney in Wyoming for years. So naturally, at that point, I'm like, "Oh, you gotta tell me things. Like you gotta tell me everything." And we became friends, and we've been friends since then. So I guess that would, even though I don't think it's okay for me to lash out at trolls, that one had a happy ending.
Well, I'm, as you probably heard, I've got a Saturday show, 6 to 10 now, just little old me on Saturday mornings. And I do want to, lighten things up a little bit on Saturdays, a little bit less news, as I mentioned. And, when politics is the topic of the day or the elephant in the room, we'll talk about it. But generally, and if I see texts or emails or such that somebody really wants to engage me in argument, I don't want to sound like a wimp, but at the same time, I don't think that I'm going to change your mind, and it's very unlikely that you're going to change my soon-to-be 64-year-old mind. So if you want to talk about it, I love it. Let's talk about it. But if you want to argue about it, or if you want to, disparage my character or whatever, I'm just going to try to avoid that. It's just, and I have family, not just family, but immediate family that I love and care for dearly, and extended family and friends and best friends whose politics are different than mine. So I am very conscious of that. But I will also say, Claire, and you'll probably pick up on it too, that I am, I'm not afraid to give an opinion, but at the same time, I'm probably not going to engage in too much of what they call rage baiting with my radio show. So, but we'll see. I mean, it may happen. I say that, and yet hopefully folks will have grace for me if I slip up.
I think where we derail is our temptation to worship some figures and to villainize and despise others. Yeah. And when we get preoccupied with the figures and the characters, Trump, Biden, whoever, then we fixate on those as ideals or as what word am I looking for? Or as villains. And when people get in the habit of doing that, they lose sight of the principles that endeared them to that person in the first place. And that's when the argument derailed. If you remember the principles that you value, and then you hold your darlings, you hold your heroes accountable to those, then it's easier to remember what the issues are and what the argument is and why it matters.
You bet. Well, I think people will be able to kind of figure out my leanings eventually anyway, but I won't make it obvious, I hope. All right. Well, Claire, anything coming up that you wanted to tease and let people know what you're up to? Or can I look forward and ask you very politely sometime when you do have something that you want to share, that my Saturday show would be someplace that you might want to do that on, that you would join me.
Oh, I might have to. So maybe.
Listen,
As for today, I don't tell the radio person what I'm about to write. It's bad luck.
Ah, didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm happy to discuss what I have written or what others have written, but it's evidence proven that it's bad for me to anticipate with the radio person.
Well, I'll take the maybe, and every once in a while, if you do, you've got an outlet, and certainly I appreciate your time this morning. And I guess break a leg. I don't want you to have bad luck with your. Does that apply in column writing? Maybe not.
Yeah, I haven't had that one,
well,
but
I'm
sure.
Son, I'll ask him. So,
okay. Well, right. I mean, I'm sure that there's parallels there. Actors are also conduits for the truth in some way. So.
I look forward to introducing you to my son, and you'll see. All right. Well, Claire, God bless you. Thank you for your time this morning. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. All right. And again, another one of our very talented columnists, reporters here at Cowboy State Daily Radio. It is your buddy Bags, John Baggett. I'm on here today as a substitute for Jake Nichols, who's on vacation. And I think Shireen will be back on Monday, because I think Jake's got another week off. That'll be a relief, huh? Especially since you can see the host on the streaming. Much more pleasant to the eyes than your buddy Bags, Shireen. And Jake, no offense, Jake, but yeah, that's just reality. Okay, so we do have a break coming up here, and afterwards we will have plenty more to talk about as we get ready for the weekend. Thanks for tuning in to your buddy Bags on Cowboy State Daily Radio. I'm available via text and or a call into my home studio in Sheridan, Wyoming at 307-278-9598 and or an email, and I will check those emails after the show here at 10 o'clock. At wyomingbags307@gmail.com. We'll be back here after this break on the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
From Yellowstone to Devil's Tower, the Bighorn Mountains to the Teton Range, Cheyenne to Sheridan, Rawlins to Ralston, Cowboy State Daily Morning Show covers the state like no other radio show or podcast. We love Lovell. We're eager to share the stories of Story, we'll crow about Crowheart, and yodel over Yoder. Whether you make your home in Sweetwater, Chugwater, Powder River, or Green River, the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show will make you feel right at home. Jeffrey City, Atlantic City, we see you. Little America, Big Piney, you're on our radar. Howdy, Wapiti, Meeteetse, Shoshone, Ten Sleep, good morning, welcome, Torrington, Riverton, Wheatland, Lusk, Lingle, Lander, Timber, Casey, Kerwin, Moorcroft, Mountain View, Moose, Fort Bridger, Fort Laramie, Fort Washington, Hannah, Hudson, Hewlett, Dayton, Daniel, and DuBois. We are east of Weston, west of Midwest, north of Newcastle, and south of Sundance. Border to border, we love Wyoming and every one of its communities, bar none.
You're listening to the Cowboy State Daily Radio Network.
Wyoming is a place of unlimited potential, a place that inspires us to dream. Since 2014, Wyo Lotto has given back over $180 million to our great state through transfers, winnings, commissions, and more. Dollars that have gone directly into your cities, towns, and counties. Dollars that have changed lives and set dreams in motion. Thank you, Wyoming, for a legendary 10 years. We can't wait to dream up what's next.
What is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, and why does Wyoming need it? In 1990, the U.S. Supreme Court tried to give government more power to step into the First Amendment religious rights of Americans. That decision concerned so many people that in 1993, Congress passed legislation called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. that happened in a nearly unanimous bipartisan vote. This legislation simply returned cases on religious freedom to the long-held standard that the Supreme Court had tried to overturn. Since that legislation only applied to the federal government, it was also determined that each state should pass its own laws protecting religious freedom. Since then, 28 other states have passed these kind of laws, and even more have court opinions providing similar protections. Sadly, Wyoming is not one of them. It's time for Wyoming to defend the First Amendment and pass a Wyoming Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
Year after year, we continue to serve new neighbors across our state.
For over 40 years, our trust and wealth management services have grown our roots in Casper.
And now we're excited to have offices in 3 Wyoming cities.
We're here to help you achieve your financial goals
And provide the kind of service that you expect from a Wyoming business.
Because at Hilltop Bank, community means Wyoming.
.941 on a Friday. My name is John Baggett. Friends call me Bags. Here at Cowboy State Daily Radio on a Friday, subbing for Jake Nichols. He's got another week off or so, but it'll be Sharina next week again to host the weekday show. But there is a Saturday Cowboy State Daily Radio show now going forward, and I'll be the host of that. Okay? You bet. I hope you can tune in on Saturdays and be, part of the show. Participation would be very important. Nobody wants to listen to anybody, especially me, yabber on for hours at a time, right? 4 hours. And if you can hear my voice, I've been on since 6 a.m., and then the voice started to go about 20 minutes ago, but not too bad. Better than it was last week, my first show on a Saturday. So your invitation is there. Please do join me. Just wanted to go over a couple of the stories that were of interest to me as I went over our Cowboy State Daily newspaper, which, of course, some people call a newsletter, but it is so vast and covers so many things. It's like a digital newspaper as far as I'm concerned. But one of the stories that caught my attention, it's one of the lighter ones. Bighorn Towing Company in Cody. The headline of the story is Cody Towing Company leaves truck parked without brake on. It rolls off cliff. My buddy Andrew Rossi, one of our reporters here, covered that story. And if you go to cowboystatedaily.com and you look at the story, the picture of the vehicle is there, and it's like wedged in a canyon, a draw. And it's funny because I'll give you the story here, but in the story, they talk about it being salvageable, that it's not totaled. Well, I would beg to differ, because that looks totaled to me. I'll tell you what. So Bighorn Towing Company is planning on one of its most challenging recoveries. A battered pickup is precariously perched on a cliff face near Wapiti, and they're hoping to recover it intact. And the irony is the truck belongs to Eric Lopez, one of the business's co-owners. Here's a quote here. It says, "I never thought one of my most challenging recoveries would be for my own vehicle." He says that's a good way to sum it up. It is a good way to sum it up. But again, this is an Andrew Rossi story, one of our feature reporters here on Cowboy State Daily. And him and I got to talk about it earlier. I had him live up on Zoom. And he does give a good perspective, or did. And you can go. We archive all of our Excuse me, I'm clearing my throat there so I don't do it in your ear. I had to punch the mic button. So all these morning shows are archived at Cowboy State Daily. There's a drop down up at the top that says radio. Drop down there, and if you look to the right of the main screen, there's all the shows kind of lined up there. And anyway, so you can hear that interview with Andrew, and that was in the probably about 7:40 this morning. But anyway, the story goes on. Lopez said that he was under the weather when he returned to his home last weekend. He parked Old Blue, a 1997 Ford F-250 outside his house, and he went inside to get some much-needed rest. He says, again here in quotes, "When I woke up at 4 a.m., we had crazy winds, over 70 miles per hour. I looked outside my window, and my truck was gone." A bad sign. It says Lopez ruled out a theft. He says as it would have been impractical for anyone to want a 28-year-old truck that badly wanted a 28-year-old truck that badly to venture out on a night like that. So he waited until the following day to verify his theory that it wasn't stolen. He says again in quotes, "The only thing I could think of was that it rolled down the cliff. Once we had daylight, I saw it on the side of the cliff." And again, the picture of it is on cowboystatedaily.com. And while you're there, subscribe, would you? Yeah. Thank you. The verdict, Lopez parked the truck, but must have forgotten to put it in gear. Yeah, that makes sense. When the winds picked up, they were strong enough at OYO to roll the truck right over the cliff. He said, "I couldn't believe it," but that's the story. Old Blue is one of the most reliable trucks at Bighorn Basin Towing. Lopez and his crew are hopeful the truck wasn't totaled. See, that's the part that I'm scratching my head. In the fall, that it wasn't totaled in the fall off the cliff, even if it doesn't look good. Bighorn Basin Towing has recovered plenty of vehicles, but never tackled a task with this scale and complexity. It will be a learning experience for everyone, Lopez included. We've never done anything like this, and this is the kind of recovery you see on YouTube. So I assume you guys are going to video this because it could be an adventure and probably will get a ton of visits there on YouTube. They're going to be using wreckers and possibly a helicopter. But we're a recovering company and auto repair business, so that's what we do. Lopez rendered a Bobcat skid steer Wednesday to coax Old Blue off the cliff. Despite 6 hours of strategizing and tugging on it, it did not work. There's a big tooth-shaped rock that's pinning it into a crevice, he said. He thought that if he got a chain around it, he could pull that rock down, but it was a lot tougher than it seemed. The new plan is to get a bulldozer to extract the crumpled truck from the cliff. A vehicle with 3 times the weight should be enough to get Old Blue down to earth. If you understand physics and have the right equipment, you can get pretty much anything out of tight situations, he said. We're going to get some physical and mental rest and attack it again next week. So if you want to go see it, you got to do it here sometime this weekend if you want to see Old Blue trapped there in a crevice. And yeah, that's my favorite story. I mean, we have more, and I did want to touch on the weather because we are going to get into some weather here in OYO. So let me bring up Don Day's weather forecast here. And okay, let's go. Here we go. Where are you, Don? Okay, yeah. So what? Hold on one second. Why don't I'll play it, then I'll give you the more of a breakout of the individual towns and regions of Wyoming. So I'll be right back after this Cowboy State weather from Don Day.
Well, hopefully everyone's enjoyed this beautiful spring weather we've had this week because change is in the air. We're going to see changes early today out in western Wyoming where some showers developed overnight, and there's going to be a little bit of rain and snow shower activity in the west early in the day today. The main event, though, starts tonight. We're going to see a Pacific wave come through and areas of rain will develop, maybe a couple of thunderstorms, especially in the central and eastern parts of Wyoming. And overnight tonight, into Saturday morning, that wave could bring a good shot of moisture. Mainly rain on the plains, maybe mixing with snow down to 6,000 feet. We do need to watch out for the higher elevations of Interstate 80, especially between Laramie and Cheyenne and Laramie and Rawlins. There could be some travel concerns there late tonight and tomorrow morning. Another wave will come through, bringing another shot of rain and snow to parts of Wyoming as we get into Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Now, these two systems will affect all of Wyoming with some precipitation, much colder temperatures, and some travel hazards, especially over the mountain passes. So be prepared for change this weekend.
All right, thanks, Don. Let me give you some current conditions around the Cowboy State. In Wheatland, hello to everybody down there. It's your buddy Bags. And I know a lot of you folks there are shocked and amazed that you can hear me doing a radio show once again, be it a digital streaming radio. But it's 48 degrees in Wheatland and sunny skies. Here in Sheridan, we have 50 degrees and sunshine right now. Supposed to get the weather moving in here at about, 6 o'clock this evening. Over in Gillette, it's 54 degrees and partly cloudy. In Gillette, let's go head down to the center part of the state. Let's go check out Casper. Casper is, actually it's Glen Rock because I have friends in Glen Rock. Sunny and 56 degrees in Glen Rock right now. And again, as Don said, some weather moving in pretty much throughout the entire state. Rain turning to snow at some point. Okay, as I've mentioned before, I've got a show on Saturdays. I'm inviting you to join me 6A to 10A. And I'm here in Sheridan. So there'll be times when, even though you may be listening somewhere else, that I kind of focus in that direction of Sheridan, just because I'm here and it's available. In fact, tomorrow, for example, I've got the Sheridan Chief of Police coming on. So join me tomorrow as I talk to Travis Koltiska, Sheridan City Chief of Police. A general conversation about law enforcement, about the changing season with kids and young people and motorcyclists, etc., being out and about. And then just wanted really to shine some light on law enforcement community as being personally a very, very big supporter of law enforcement with some very dear family and friends who some are currently law enforcement. I'm thinking of a couple in Denver right now. And then my grandfather on my mother's side was in Rochester, New York, was a police officer for many, many decades. The Del Bracco, the Italian side of my family. And then I also want to focus a little bit, too, tomorrow on Cheyenne Frontier Days. Yeah, wow, already? Really? Seriously? Because Ian Munsick, as you may have heard, will be performing. He's the opening act. And Travis Tritt, right, is opening for him. Travis Tritt's opening for Ian Munsick at Cheyenne Frontier Days. That's pretty incredible, don't you think? I've had the pleasure of meeting Ian and his father and his brother Tris. Had Tris on my show, it's been a couple years ago now when I was on the radio station here in Sheridan, Peak 98.3 The Peak. And he was on with me for an hour, and I had him play, even though it was a rock and roll show that I was doing, I had him in there strumming his guitar. And if you know the Munsick, the entire family is very, very talented. And so I was just thrilled to see that Ian Munsick will open the Cheyenne Frontier Days 2025 version, and July 18th. So get tickets. Let's sell it out. I got to see Ian perform at Billy Bob's Texas in Fort Worth, which they say it is. They claim it is the world's biggest honky tonk, and it is massive. It really is. And they have the inside's massive. They have a bull riding arena inside the bar, in the saloon, the honky tonk. And then they have like 2 stages at either end of the inside. And then on the outside, they have like a 7,000 to 8,000 person but a concert venue with a big stage and so forth. And my wife and I, Deb, were down there. A friend of mine who is now a very significant producer was putting the Tunnels to Towers fundraiser event together in Fort Worth at Billy Bob's, Texas. And Rob and his beautiful wife, Tara, hosted Deb and I. Said, come on down, Bags. Why don't you guys help us put this show on? And I was like, you betcha. Got to be in there and rub elbows, if you know what I mean. And so Deb and I did. We went down there, and we got to see Ian perform. And it also up there, so Tanya Tucker performed, Jelly Roll, who else? But there was an all-star band of a group of names that you would know. But they were all there to help raise money for Tunnels to Towers. And then they actually gave away a home to a family of a serviceman who lost his life, 2 teenage boys. They looked around the teenage years, maybe early 20s, one of them, and the mother. And they, while we were there up on stage, they gave them the keys to a new home, cash, free of charge. Incredible. It's a great organization. I highly recommend that if you're looking for a place to support, Tunnels to Towers will be one of them. Anyway, on the stage was Ian Munsick and his band, and people, he blew the doors off the place. These friggin' Texans, God bless you, Texans. I'm joking. Great people. But Ian was up there, and these Texans went bananas. So if you haven't seen Ian Munsick in concert, there ain't a whole lot of standing around. He is got the energy of 5 people, and he just put on such a great show. I remember thinking, this was only a couple years ago, not even 2 years ago when we saw this show. I can remember being extremely proud of the fact that he was ours from Wyoming, especially just up the road here where I am in Sheridan. His family's been ranching here for decades, and he's the real deal. Comes from a cowboy ranching family, and has turned that into really talking about the Wyoming lifestyle. So he did that in front of all these Texans. It was sold out, 8,000 or so people, and he's up there telling them all about Bighorn Mountain country in Wyoming and being a cowboy. And man, I was proud. I had my King's Ropes hat on, as did Ian, I think, if I remember that, or if he was wearing a cowboy hat. Now I don't remember, but he wears that hat a lot. It's kind of representative of being from Bighorn Mountain country in Sheridan. So anyway, he's on stage. I recommend that you go on. He's July 18th, and then from there, the lineup is fantastic this year. You can go to cfdrodeo.com and see Cheyenne Nights, what's coming up, Cheyenne Frontier Days this year. All right, well, as I've said multiple times, I'm just subbing today, a weekday, but I do a regular show on Saturdays. I really would like it to be a success, and the only way it can be a success is if you're listening and you participate You can call in 307-278-9598 or text in at that same line, 307-278-9598. And or emails, give me some ideas. Maybe tell me what's going on in your part of the world so I can talk about it at wyomingbags307@gmail.com and wyomingbags, BAGGS 307@gmail.com. Well, that's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. It was so appreciative of you joining me and being a part of it and staying tuned and being patient. And look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Otherwise, you have a wonderful weekend. God bless.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. There was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Learn more at helpheart.org.